na kindumbwendumbwe cha siasa au politics ukipenda. Now tonight's show is brought to you courtesy of money transfer app Lemfi. The One Mic Show is offering $30 for the first $100 sent on your first transaction using the code One Mic. So please remember to click on that link if you're listening to us on YouTube or on Facebook. Click on that link, download the app, log in, send you $100 and you get your $30. So asanteni sana. We are streaming live on Facebook from Kilimanjaro Studios outside Washington, D.C. And we'll shortly be going live on YouTube, so please call all your YouTube friends. Now, please remember to subscribe to both our YouTube and Facebook pages at The One Mic Show. Follow us on Instagram at One Mic Show, and we are now also on TikTok. So follow us, and shortly, we are also going to be on, is it called X or Twitter or whatever you call it? We're going to be on there. We will let you know as soon as our account is up, live and running there. And we're also taking live calls tonight. The number to call is 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. Now, later tonight, we're going to talk about the collapse of the Harris campaign. We're going to ask what happened, how Kamala Harris lost after pollsters showing that she had a good chance of winning. We're going to discuss how she got wiped out in all the battleground states, so want you to stay tuned for that. And we're also going to be continuing with the conversation that we had last week before the election, talking about the rise of the number of Kenyans who are in support of President Donald Trump. Now he's the winner, he's the president-elect. We're gonna be having all those discussions, so stay tuned and feel free to start dropping comments below. We're gonna be reading them shortly. Na bila kusahau, tumekuwa tukipokea mziki toka DJ wetu Machachari Mleta Habari, DJ Omosh Fire, na tutadunda kule viwanjani na Mika Ot jezi yake nambari 7 mgongoni akituletea habari za michezo. Na moja kwa moja toka Kilimanjaro Studios ni mimi mtangazaji na mwanahabari wako mpendwa Ali Badawi. Kwetu wananiita mteule na wengine mniite mjukuu wa Masai, because I'm Kenyan by blood, American by design, Masai by choice. Sichagui, sikagui na sibagui. Karibuni.
Let's talk politics.
Now, of course, this hour we are going to be talking to DC-based social justice organizer Dr. Nathan Wangusi. We're going to be talking about the impact that Kenya will see from a Trump presidency. It's a topic that we're going to be tackling tonight. Many people have been wondering what's going to happen. So we will be talking about that tonight. So please drop a comment below and tell us where you're tuned in from. I know some people, a lot of people, are very upset with what happened during the week. It's politics. It's a competition. We're back to where we were in 2016. We are back to where we were in Kenya in 2022 when President Ruto won. So we're back here again. So we're very resilient. We are used to this, but life has to keep moving. We have to keep going on and on and on. And then I want to welcome, I can see Washeke is already tuned in. I can also see Stephen Bati of Sambaza podcast already tuned in. Anasema tupo sote. So karibuni sana. Please call all your friends. Tell them waamke. Mambo ya kulala, depression imekwisha. We have to keep moving and we have to figure out what it is that will happen from here going henceforth. Now, to get us started, I'm going to say I don't even know where to get started today. This has been a really tough week. But in what has been described as a tight race by pollsters, Donald J. Trump beat Kamala Harris earlier this week in a decisive win where he won. Not all battleground states have been called, but he will likely be the winner of all the 7 battleground states. And of course, joining us tonight for a compelling discussion on what impact a Trump presidency will have on Kenya is DC social justice organizer Dr. Nathan Wangusi. Now, Dr. Nathan Wangusi will talk about the fate of the deals that President William Ruto signed with the Biden administration following the state visit earlier this year. He'll also tackle issues around trade, immigration, AGOA, and the possibility of a recall of Ambassador Meg Whitman. As you know, many people were really upset with Ambassador Meg Whitman. So once again, karibu for a second time to Kilimanjaro Studios, Dr. Wangusi. Karibu sana. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling good. As you said, it's been a whirlwind of a week.
Mm-hmm.
On my part, I just came from Kenya, so I have a very different sense of the election environment here.
Okay.
Coming from sort of experiencing what Kenyans have been living through in the last couple of months.
Okay.
Remember, we just got a new deputy president after the impeachment of Rigiji.
Yes.
It's had consequences, obviously, on the ground. Spent a lot of time in Nairobi. One of sort of the most poignant experiences I had when I was there was one of my really good friends. He's also a social organizer in Langata, Daniel Barasa. If he's listening, I'm giving him a big shout
out to Daniel Barasa.
Yeah. So
Ali Amelipa.
We'll send an email.
We'll send an invoice. Salamu,
eh?
No, hapa kuna salamu bila pesa, Omera.
So I'll tell you about Daniel. So Daniel was one of the first. He was one of the first, and I should be careful when I say this. But
Yes.
this kid was one of the first protesters to go into parliament. Of course, there were thousands of them who went in, but he was right in that front line.
Okay.
And
Boss, you're outing him, Bwana.
No, is he the one who like took the video?
He took a lot of the videos that we saw.
Okay.
He's just one of the Gen Zs who went into
Right place, right time. Was it wrong place, wrong time?
He was in the right place at the right time because he has a very unique perspective of the history of Kenya now, given that this was one of these seminal events that we'll talk about for generations to come.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, he made an effort to actually take me through what they went through.
Okay.
So we walked down from the Supreme Court. We went to the governor's office. We went to Parliament, and he explained to me the personalities that he saw being shot down, his friends, what was really going on.
Mm-hmm.
And right now it's very quiet. It's very difficult to kind of wrap my mind. It was very difficult to wrap my mind around what was actually
happening
on,
then, because you're in a silent.
Yeah, now it's
silence.
quiet.
Yeah, yes.
But you can still see, in spite of the fact that they've tried to, repair.
Yeah.
You can see that the governor's office has just been newly painted.
City Hall.
It was
burnt down.
It was
Yeah,
burnt
yeah,
down.
yeah,
You can
so-
see, from a distance, you can also see some bullet marks.
Yeah.
I stood at the very places that some of our young heroes
Gen Zs,
were cut down by guns, and it was a very emotional experience for me.
Is Parliament still accessible? Like the guy who was shot right in front of Parliament.
No,
that
they've
area.
kind of put a lot of now security protocols.
So a
very
regular
heavy-
person can't really get to that point, right?
Not in the same way.
Yeah,
In fact, we were quite nervous because there's very hawkish and hawk-eyed security forces around Parliament now. So if they see you lingering around,
Taking pictures.
there's
Yeah.
now it's very
just
clear
look how you look out of place.
Yeah.
if you just look at kind of out of place,
Yeah.
they come at you. So it was a
Okay.
really sort of poignant experience, and he really wanted to talk to me so that I can come out and tell the world that he told me go and tell the world what happened here.
Okay.
Beyond just the really dramatic scenes we saw on TV.
Okay.
There was real and palpable fear, and I could tell he's a brave young man, exceptionally brave young man, but even he was saying ilifika mahali hata sisi tulikuwa tu tunajiokolea maisha
Okay.
and how they
Adrenaline.
were being chased down.
Adrenaline.
It was very, and one of the things that really stood out to me was apparently it was really personal for some of these police officers. They would identify what they thought were the ringleaders, or they would just kind of identify an individual, then they pursue him.
Yeah.
He told me that had it not been for the intervention of the fathers at All Saints, those are the other heroes.
A lot of people would have been more
Would
down.
have
remember
been
that
mowed
story.
down. So
Yeah.
apparently they hid him inside the cathedral. That's what saved his life.
Okay.
Because there was an officer who had made a decision. He had identified
so
him.
it was coming
He
direct
knew
for
his
him.
face. So he was coming for him. So he jumped into All Saints, and that's why he found refuge. And he stayed there.
Okay.
And then after he left there, he actually left Nairobi and went
Okay.
into hiding for several weeks.
Okay, now that's something that we're going to be talking
Very
about.
interesting.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about, and this
And
gentleman
sorry
that you're
to
talking about.
deviate.
No.
That's okay.
Topic, but I think
It
just the
goes with where we
experience of
are
being
because
there.
Yeah.
it's getting us
Yeah,
to where
and
we
then
need
and
to.
then then
Because that was our January 6th.
that was our that was
That
Correct.
was our
Correct.
January
that,
6th.
Yes.
that was our Waterloo.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I come out from there.
No. Do not compare.
Okay, Mika, we're gonna come to you. Wacha baraza malize, and then we're
But I
gonna
was
get
just
back to you.
introducing. So
Yeah.
tu kifupi nikisema wewe vile umesema January 6 na Gen Z protests are not the same thing.
Okay, all right, sawa. We're gonna get to you, Mika. Now, my other question is, were people in Kenya talking about the U.S. elections while you were
no,
there?
there was so the reason I started there is because I wanted just to communicate that there's a lot of confusion in Kenya. So you would imagine that the U.S. election would be front and center, not just in the media but in people's social consciousness, because the U.S. election has an impact on people's lives in Kenya, and it's a palpable impact for many people, because maybe people work in NGOs, they are involved in like human rights activities, and
Sema
the
tu
US government-
tunatuma pesa.
alafu kuna hiyo kutuma pesa,
Okay,
but
alright.
there's so much political confusion in Kenya.
Correct.
That was not a topic that was on people's social consciousness, and all of a sudden January 4th kind of comes charging. I hopped on a plane, I think on must have been the Thursday or the Friday, and then I land in DC. Obviously I have to kind of get over the jet lag. Then I wake up on Monday morning, I'm like, oh wait, there's an election. There wasn't that sort of excitement or sense that there was this really seminal event that's going to actually affect us in more ways than one. The other thing, and even more importantly, is this: that the U.S. election, given all these issues that we are going to discuss today, including the impact it has on global geopolitics, whether that's in the Israel-Palestinian conflict that is affecting oil prices, or in the Middle East, whether that has to do with like the Ukraine war that is affecting grain prices and as a result having ripple effects, that connection is really not being made.
Yeah, people
Those
are not.
connections
People don't
they-
understand.
They
it.
don't understand those
Yeah.
connections, so they don't really pay attention. And while we can't influence, directly influence these elections, they have an impact on us, because had it not been for Biden, then we would not have a Meg Whitman. Had it not been for a Meg Whitman, they would not have validated this pariah of a president who has really been empowered by an administration. And then, that coupled with all the other global issues that are going on,
Okay.
resulted in what we experienced.
And
in-
our
in
trade
June.
agreement is front and center in there, by the
Okay,
way.
and
so
we're gonna be
hopefully you
talking
see that
about
connection. I apologize for kind of digressing, but I really wanted to just make sure that as part of my introduction, I made that.
Hawa watu wa thesis waga wanatupelekaga mbio huko,
Yeah.
alafu
Yeah.
wanaturudisha, unaona?
Yeah, no, that's very okay.
Okay,
That's very
okay.
okay. Hapa Juliet AO
Hiyo inaitwa
anasema
weave.
Or
Yeah.
to weave in and out.
Yeah.
Si River Nyando ndio waga inaendaga hivyo.
with the
It
River Nyando,
meanders.
the one that's not navigable.
It is meandering.
Meander.
Yes,
All right.
it
Now,
meanders.
Juliet AO says the magnitude of misinformation in Kenya regarding U.S. politics is very wild. And I can see also Mutz is tuned in. Karibu sana Mutz. And then Apa Humphrey One Mike anasema kafirifiri. Another day, he hasn't shown up at work.
Did he call in?
No, he didn't call in.
So no call, no show.
Yeah, but he's just
Who is he
shamelessly
supposed to call, though?
he's shamelessly watching the show.
What do you mean? We are his employers.
He-
I was just
yeah.
saying, who is he supposed to call?
We are
Upper-
his
upper
employers.
management.
Upper
management.
Upper management,
Yes,
yeah.
we have
Yeah.
a whole HR department. Yeah.
Upper management. So Tabs, if you're tuned in, please tell us. Please give us a policy or something that we can use to penalize one bank, because he's now used to doing this, where he decides when he wants to work from home, and even when he's working from home, he decides
He's not
if he wants
working.
to work.
Yeah, how many
or
working
what.
hours is he going to put into this home from working and working from home when he's not
I
working
think it's
during
in a
the
rhyme.
hours
Maybe
he should
he's
work?
walking, not working.
Okay.
Aya, sawa sawa. Wacha tuongee na Mika. Mika, karibu sana. Tell us, how has your week been? This has been a very rough week for most people. Mika Och.
The week has been how it is. Simple as that. Disappointing. It's been a disappointing week. Like those weeks whereby you have high expectations, and if you're looking at these elections, it proves something. And this is how I feel is like, I think it's time we're just looking how these elections have gone. it's time for black people to actually take a step back and let these other races start now being the ones who take responsibility about things start happening. Because I feel this is like an insult and a slap to black people and black people representation, because it cannot be that an election whereby it was black people who were being told you need to come out and vote, went out and voted, and then everybody else who was covered and who had so many issues on that ballot decided to vote something else. So I think it's actually time for black people to take a step back, like everybody else has been. Black people become selfish until this politics now have to become more shaped in terms of we are also going to look for what we want and how we want it. And also, I think it's time for the Democratic Party to revamp itself and usually start looking at what the people are saying and stop doing this politically correct policies that they like putting in. Like the Democratic Party has to revamp itself and ask itself why 20 million of their voters didn't come out. If those 20 million of their voters would have come out, they would have won the election clean and fair with a very huge margin. This is the first time the Democratic Party has lost the popular vote. Not because the Republicans actually flipped people, just because Republicans came out and Democrats didn't come. So it's time for the party itself to also come back to the black people and show us why should we support you.
Yes, actually, Mika, what you're bringing out is some very salient points. The last time the the last time Republicans won the popular vote was George Bush in 2004. Remember, he lost the popular vote in 2000, but in 2004, in the wake of the Iraq War, he did win the popular vote. So that's the last time that a Republican won a popular vote. And before that, the last time a Republican won a popular vote was 1988. His father, George Bush Sr. That was the last time that a Republican won the popular vote. So you can see.
So they're running like almost every 20 years.
So you can see what's happening. But clearly there was a lot of people who sat out the election. Joe Biden got 81 million votes. As you can see, the count as of right now, Kamala Harris has close to 70 million, 69 million. I think it might get to 70 million. So that's a whole 11 million votes less than what Joe Biden got.
Yeah.
Trump has, I think, 73, 74 million votes as of the last time I checked, which is less than what he got in the elections 2020. So this tells you what happened. I mean, there's a lot of things, like a lot of blame going around, and a lot of things. But I think once once everything settles and a postmortem is done, it will be very important for the Democratic leadership to start giving power to the grassroots parties, to the grassroots chapters of their parties, which will be telling them this is what our people are asking, this is what they're talking about
on the ground, basically.
Yes, and not necessarily things coming from the top and being told that this is what you should be talking about on the ground. So I think maybe that's what needs to happen. Omosh Fire, how was your week?
I think Mika wanted to say something. Mika, what was it that you were trying to say?
No, I was just trying to say, how many times are you going to be telling the Democratic Party has to go back to the grassroots and listen to the people? Because this is what happened in 2016, right? In 2016, they clearly gave the wrong candidate that candidate, but they wanted to be politically correct. And they were told about it. Even the policies they were going for, they were told about it. And that is what makes them lost to a very... The Democratic Party, I will say, created Trump.
Wow.
They're the ones who gave him this strength that he has.
That's a whole indictment.
Because in 2016, if the Democratic Party had done the right thing and just done how they had, instead of trying to give Hillary a clear pass out of it, they would have beaten Trump, and Trump would have died. He would have never gotten that political platform that he got. They gave him an easy win, and they created this thing that is here. And then now right here again we have, yes, people might say Biden stepped out late. People might have said she was not the right candidate. But guess what? Any candidate with the right policies and with the right framework and everything and how it was done could have won this election. Their campaign strategies. Let's not try and blame black people and say black people didn't come out for black people voted everyone to their mouth as to what it is. The people who voted for Trump were the same people who voted for him in 2016. White women. Where was the Democratic go to, and Latinos? How did they lose? How white women, we can expect that they vote how their men tell them to vote. How did the Democratic Party lose the Latino vote?
Yeah, but I think this is the thing that somehow I believe Democratic Party lost the attachment they had with these minorities. Their policy now, is kind of shy away from them, and this is why Trump was able to lie to them, and they would rather just go with what he was saying.
Yeah.
Democratic was banking the party was banking on, Latino and black, but their policies, they're not there anymore. They don't feel like it's fighting for them anymore. I think that's what they need.
And Bandio, that is where I'm saying. I think, and that's what I'm saying. I think as black people, we need to be selfish right now. We need to be selfish to a point whereby and pull, because it's like we need you. You are the ones who get us over the line. You're the ones who ever do it the line. But then the one time that it was like, okay, fine, the black people are coming out. Are you coming to support us? Nobody came out to help us anyway. We saw everybody. We saw the Arab Americans pull out and go demand because they were demanding for their own things, right? We're seeing Latinos also, they're saying they're demanding for their own things. We are the ones who went and did everything that's supposed to be done in the party. And I believe it's time that black people should be selfish and demand demand more from this party.
Okay.
But there's a bit of a dilemma there, though. So the Democratic Party set itself up, as you were saying, it already set itself up for failure at the polls, and they were just really, really lucky that in 2020 they had a really seasoned and trusted a voice in Joe Biden.
Politician.
So people voted for the Democratic Party because of Biden, not because of the policies of the party itself.
Yeah.
What they did, which is I think what you're echoing here, is they embraced very liberal social doctrines and social policies or cultural policies that, while the country generally agrees that all of us are made equal in the eyes of God, most sensible Americans agree that what a woman does with their body is a decision they should be making between them and their doctor. Most Americans agree that we have some people who have different orientations in terms of their gender or their sexual preferences. So most rational Americans agree and accept that. But then central to the issues that people bring to the ballot box are the problems that they're facing every day, not the social issues. They're facing problems with their ability to pay for groceries or to pay for gas. Those are the daily struggles of like
money in the pocket,
common
jobs,
Americans. So when you forget that, I mean, Mika, I kind of agree with you only to the extent that we are unique demographic that has heavily invested in the party, but Trump wasn't made president by black people. He was made president by Americans who have.
No, I didn't say he was made president by black people. I said the Democratic Party.
No, I'm saying I'm agreeing with you. By the way, I'm agreeing with you. All I'm saying is, it is a wide swath of the population, black, white, Latino, of different orientations, different religious groups who are having the same struggles. The middle class is being stretched, right? And the Democratic Party, instead of focusing on those issues, it's one of those cases where it's the opposite of shooting the messenger. We just had the message wrong.
But the dilemma.
And I agree with that.
Yeah, I think the dilemma.
So it doesn't matter who you're selling that message to.
Yeah.
They're going to shoot the messenger.
I think the dilemma also that black people still face, and this is now black people. I'm including black descendants of slaves and black African and Caribbean immigrants. The dilemma that we face is that we besides, like having the same skin color, we are at a point where we don't share the same values, and we lack a force, a unifying force that can bring us together. When you look at the biggest black achievements, in the history of the U.S., let's say going back to the civil rights movement in the 60s, there were voices that could speak, and everybody pauses and listens. Everybody in the community pauses and listens. So today, who are those voices?
We have a deficit, of leadership.
Yes, who are those voices?
And Ali, there's something you said. Let me just interject that before I forget this. The other thing that has actually happened is that the Democratic Party has, they used to say the Republican Party has left us, because Republicans actually primarily used to be very, Africans, African Americans, people of black descent. For the most part, used to mostly espouse Republican principles because of the sort of conservative family values. Then the party became so radical and right wing.
Then they left.
And the same thing has happened with the Democratic Party. They've become so focused on left wing policies because there's a strong presence by leaders like Pelosi and that crew, who have drawn the party so far left. It has also now left people
where
of color
it originally stood.
Where it originally stood. So you're kind of left in this political purgatory.
Danged if I do, danged if I don't.
Danged if I do. So all you think about is, rather than suffer the brunt of poverty, I'd rather suffer insults from the Republicans.
So we're in that dilemma where I think even
very interesting.
Even as black people, we need to sit together, and try to figure out, where can we find a commonality. For example, the way white people would sit together and they decide we don't like immigration. We have different issues as white people, but we don't like immigration, and they come together behind the aspect that they don't like immigration. A couple of comments here have been coming through from people who are tuned in. Juliet was reminding one Mike to submit PTO the next time. And then Brao Bazenga Karibu Sana. I think Brao was agreeing with what Mika and Dr. Wangusi was saying. And then we have Achuna Pachoy saying 2020 was a referendum on Trump and 2024 is a referendum on Biden. Okay, and then Brao Bazenga says, who are tired of identity politics. I think he meant people are tired of identity politics. And he says also Pelosi is out of touch. And then Appa Mutzlis says, can I make it spiritual? Which is very good. Mutz says, this country and most countries have sinned greatly against God. God wants his people to back. If we take out the faces or parties, which policies would take us back to God's law? Democrats allow same-sex marriage, push for LGBTQ, modern-day slavery, abortion, etc. So the side that leans towards godliness will win this time around. Okay, so Ndunge getting spiritual, and the evangelical right, of course, have firmly aligned with the Republican Party, and at the moment, they're winning. At the moment they're winning, and there's a debate. There's a debate on who's more godly. There's a very interesting debate on who's more godly than the other. But there's, I think, one side that is there's one side that is that's openly talking about God more than the other side. But in as far as who's godly more, there's a debate on who. On who's more aligned towards God in an honest sense.
All right. So there's another one, and I would like Mika to listen and respond to this. This is another problem that Democrats seem to have. Listen.
I don't know what it is about Democrats. There's a timidity. I mean, the stock market hits record-breaking, and we're like, well, not everyone's in the stock market. And I mean, there's a timidity. How about some pride? How about standing tall for the accomplishments? What Kamala Harris has done in the last 8 weeks is unprecedented in U.S. history. She's closed the gap. We're not just within a margin of error. We've expanded the map in the United States. You saw new polls this morning.
All right. Kwamba Democrats inapofika swala kujisell wana shida. Mika.
I agree with that totally. I agree with that because it's gotten to a point where, again, when I say we're having a lot of too much political correctness, it's like, and it's like Democrats have made it to a point whereby they're pussyfooting around. It's like you cannot leave this world in a way whereby you don't want to annoy or make anybody angry. There's never something there's nobody who can live like that you just want to please everybody in the world. You cannot live like that. And unfortunately, that's what the Democratic Party has become these days in terms of policies. You want to please people with so many things that actually turn around and are easy to shoot you down. Student loan forgiveness is a very good thing to run on. Very, very good thing. But you know quite well judges are going to put you in problems. You're not going to implement it completely as everything that it is. And a lot of the me speaking to a lot of young college students or people who just cleared college recently, they were like, you see, the problem is like, we're not saying he hasn't forgiven some student loans, but he promised us he's going to forgive all of us. So why did he promise us that and he knew it was going to be fought against him, right? Things like LGBTQ rights, yes, we understand these are people, but then how many people have been fighting for rights? Black people have been fighting for their rights. Disabled people have been fighting for their rights. Other minority Muslims have been fighting for their rights. You cannot just take one person and push them in the elections every time. And guess what? Makes it easier for Republicans to attack you. You've just had that spiritual comment that was written there by a listener right now. If you listen to that and you want to massage your moral ego, you listen to that and go with that. Because she mentioned abortion, she mentioned LGBTQ. She didn't go to the inside depths of it. Democrats assume that all people who are Democrats are well educated, or they assume that it's just well educated people in the country who can go into the intricacies of these issues. No, politics is about selling your policies in the simplest, easiest term that relates to the ground. Those are the people who are going to vote. Those are the people who are going to make you win. The people in higher echelons of society watakusaidia tu kuongea, but do they vote? Hii tumeona kila mahali, even in Kenya. It's the people who shall go mashinani ndo piga kura. Watu wa town piga kelele Twitter. Same thing with here. We will post pictures. We've gone to rallies. We were filling out rallies like nobody's business. Then election day, we don't have people in the polls.
Yeah, and the irony here is, as you're saying, you know, it's ni watu wa mashinani ndio wanapiga kura because they're the most affected by these policies. Then the other part of it is, you know, I call it a coup. So I personally think Biden would have done a much better job because he already had committed voters from the previous election. So, this is just a personal.
I mean, it's debatable.
It's debatable, but it's an opinion.
So you're saying that even with where he was, he would have
with where he was, I think he would have done better because he had the power of the incumbent.
But the morale was down.
The
funding was going really, really bad. And from there, people started. They were like,
but when you already have a house divided and people can already see that. Yes, he's
the
older.
guy was in a bad shape. I mean,
he's in a bad shape. Anyway, the point I was making. Let me just make this point. So when he left, there was something very poignant that he said. The only thing I actually remember from that speech. He said that he's ushering in a new generation. So the idea with ushering in a new generation, which actually Trump has done as well, because he's put J.D. Vance as his running mate, and he's his prodigy pretty much. So you're ushering in a new generation, but you're supposed to be ushering in a new generation of ideas, ideology, but also like political positioning of the party so that it's successful.
And that's what he promised in 2020.
That's what Biden was supposed to have done.
Yeah.
Right?
No, that's what he said. He said it was going to be
and there was a lot of
between him to the younger generation.
But there was a lot of excitement. So the idea, the expectation was that Harris and her campaign have actually taken the time to like give us a new social contract
in 106 days.
No. Before that, because she's been in line for a long time, and this is where people are not giving her enough responsibility for the failure itself. They're already doing what they do to everybody else. Democrats are pointing fingers. They're saying, oh, it was Biden. Biden did what he was supposed to do. He won an election against Trump.
True.
He did what he was supposed to do.
Yes.
He also said he was a bridge, and he did exactly that. He might have been a bit reluctant to leave. We don't know why. He wasn't given a
He
chance.
didn't want to.
He-
And
to
I mean,
explain himself.
people close to him, they say that. People
Yeah.
close to Jill Biden.
But everyone
you know?
is blaming Biden. But Biden, he did what he was supposed to do. He won the election, right? So he brought this election
But
home.
Bandio.
And then we bring in Harris, and because she's a woman, because she's a minority in two different ways, Indian and African American, we are not putting the blame of the failure of the campaign on her, and it's squarely. I mean, the buck stops with her, right?
Well, who's
If
that?
she was-
Because from what I'm reading,
Yeah.
If she
people
was
are
to become
blaming
the-
her because she.
They're
she
not.
kind-
They are
yes,
blaming
they are.
everyone
Yes,
else
they
but
are.
her.
No,
Yeah.
yes, they are. One,
Mhm.
when she got into the as a candidate, she didn't want to create her own
own
team.
identity.
So there was
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
was a little bit of two teams. Was Harris' team, and she decided to keep Biden's team,
Biden's
and
team,
then
yeah.
she brought some Obama. So the campaign was not as intact.
So
as
it looked
was.
like Obama
Right.
was the one running,
So
right?
that was one. Two, even a Republican, they tell you pretty much the only vice president who was well known and popular currently, I mean, in the past few years was Bush, Dick Cheney,
Dick Cheney, yeah.
but not that much. It's always known as far as vice president is concerned, unless you have a very popular president like Reagan or something.
But
She
remember,
didn't do much.
But remember, you would have still had Harris on the ticket then.
She had two jobs: one to introduce herself, and two to fight against Donald
And
Trump.
why not? Why,
right?
you know what they should have probably done. And I'm really careful to say this because you know it's a
Why
it's
you
a
be
risk
careful?
candidate.
Just let it
But
out. Let it out.
There was one there was an evangelical pastor, I don't remember who he was, who had said that the US is going to get a woman president through ascension, not through an election.
You're talking
Right.
about. I think that
So-
was Gerald Ford. That
Yeah, I
was a
think-
former.
yeah,
that was a
he
former
was a
vice
former
president.
president.
Yeah,
So
the
people
former
kind of
president,
refer
yeah.
to that a lot with respect to Harris because I knew, you know, Biden is old. Naturally, it means he's going to
I honestly think
So-
Biden's plan was to, if he wins election,
win election and then
and resign.
step down.
Yeah,
Step down.
I think that was
would
his
have
plan.
worked, but they didn't
Yeah.
even give him a chance.
Mhm.
They
They
didn't push
bundled him out.
Yeah,
They didn't even bundle
So-
him out. That was a party coup. That's what it was because they were so eager to have a woman president to validate years and years of like cultural assumptions about like.
okay,
So
Mika,
I think
and then we move
I
on
think they-
because we've
I think they
deviated
dropped
from the
ball there
conversation
because
of
they
today.
made the wrong call.
Yeah. Okay, Mika, real
No,
quick, and
for-
then we're gonna move on from this.
To me, what I feel is this. The reason why I say Biden would have won the election is that it's like everybody was waiting for that debate to go wrong and then have a reason to take Biden off. But then one thing is, Harris was beaten by a senile old man. If you look at when Trump went to the debate with Harris, she didn't stand a chance of that. She never debated him after that again, and we just saw what he was doing in the campaign rallies, right? So even when people were voting, they were not voting against Kamala. They were voting against the establishment of the Democratic Party because they understood
Okay.
exactly what it was that the Democratic Party was trying to do.
And-
And that is where the issue that I also see. For me, I will lay the blame on the Democratic Party.
but at the same
Okay.
time,
I
But
don't
squarely
care
on the
which,
candidate.
I
as
will
well.
lay the blame squarely on the Democratic Party.
Okay,
Because at
Asante.
the end of the day, no matter what Harris could have done,
Mm.
she didn't lose because she was a bad candidate.
mi nataka
Oh.
mtu anisaidie kuniexplainia kwa nini watu watatoka kwa Bush waende kwa Obama, 8 years later watoke kwa Obama waende kwa
Waende
Trump,
kwa Trump.
4 years later watoke kwa Trump waende kwa Biden, 4 years later
Kwa
watoke kwa
sababu ya
Biden
ile-
waende kwa
First-
sababu ya nini?
Unaona, kwa sababu ya
Wanatafuta
nini?
suluhisho
But-
kwa mashida zao na hawazipati.
But
Yes.
hata si no,
Okay.
no, no.
Na kama
Forget-
chama
forget-
Democrats yani hawasikizi, si ati hawajui,
Aya.
ni vile hawasikizi.
Okay, sawa sawa.
No,
I
hold up.
want to remind.
Ngoja,
Hey,
one minute.
yeah,
One
okay.
sentence. One
Aya.
sentence, Ali. Moja. Unajua nini? Let's not even pretend that the Republicans have any solutions to people suffering in any kind of way. Trump doesn't have any solution. In fact, he makes things worse. Tusijaribu kujifanya na hiyo. The only reason is because the two people that Trump has beaten is women. It's
Okay.
simple as that. This country is not as advanced as the Democrats are trying to push it to seem that it's advanced. But this country
That's
is
everywhere. Hata kwenye
No, other countries have women president.
No, nazungumzia hapa
Europe, so
Marekani
many
hata
women
kwenye
president.
pay. Si bado wana struggle na pay za wanawake.
Okay.
Yeah,
Kwenye kawaida.
ndo
So-
nasema. So the
Yeah.
problem why the reason why Trump has won these two elections because he ran against women. Nothing else.
Okay.
People don't want to be ruled by women.
All right, sawa Mika, asante sana, and I want to remind the listeners you are tuned into the One Mic Show. The number to call is 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak if you want to talk. If you're a Trump supporter, if you're a Harris supporter, please give us a call. Let us know your thoughts. Please type down in the comments. I'm going to be reading your comments shortly. Thank you so much for those who are tuned in and those who are dropping comments there, dropping gems. And I also want to remind you that our show tonight is brought to you courtesy of money transfer app Lemfi. As you can see, both pinned on the YouTube side and on the Facebook side in the comments is a link where you can download the app, get $30 from the first transaction that you send, $100. Your first transaction has to be at least $100 for you to get that $30. So please, download this app and let us know. For those who've downloaded and used it, just give us a comment. Let us know what you think about it. If there's any improvement that it needs, we're gonna go talk to their marketing team, to the engineers to improve the service if there's anything that needs improvement. But asanteni sana for being tuned in. So a lot of comments were coming in as we were speaking. I want to welcome George Yonge, karibu sana, from the great state of West Virginia. That went red. George Yonge, tell us what people in West Virginia are saying. And then Apa, Luis Muya is disagreeing with Mutz on the issue about spirituality. I'm not going to read the comment that Luis Muya wrote, but he's not so politely disagreeing. And then we have Brayo Bazenga saying uncommitted votes came about the genocide in Palestine. We're going to be talking about that. That may have also had an impact to a certain extent on this election. Then we have KD Deplore. Anasema God only anoints. He doesn't appoint. We have made his name a door rag that we know each moment we mention it, we win souls. Not all who call me Lord, Lord. You shall know them by their fruits. We have to sober up and refrain from preference. The choices I make directly affect the whole world because sin is sin, big or small. After 2027, we will talk about the cons of this choice made too. Now, Katie, I'm going to tell you, sin is sin. That's according to Christian doctrine. In Islamic doctrine, we look at it very differently. There are different sins. Kuna dhambi ndogo na kuna dhambi kubwa. So it's just a different way of looking at it. But I think this aspect of spirituality is one thing that in a future show maybe we want to discuss, because one of the things that also happened with hypermodernity is that like people who were interested in presenting God or showing love to God were kind of looked down upon. It was kind of like ni lazima mkae huko mkajifiche. I mean, as Muslims we have an entirely different experience. I always I always get caught up when I tell people sometimes do not interchange the words Christianity with religion, because there are so many other religions outside Christianity, and the experiences are different. So sometimes I like pointing that out, because on our side, where Islam, the experience is entirely different. Is entirely different from what I'm seeing in the popular culture and how being openly Christian is being treated nowadays. And then I have Sabijua Karibu Sana. Brayo Bazenga says Biden is part of the problem. He should have dropped out early. This election had nothing to do with a female candidate. So I mean, and of course this is the morning after, and Brayo Bazenga father says had Kamala run in the primaries, she likely would have lost, so she performed poorly when she ran back in 2020. So again, this is the morning after.
I think
Kamala had so much support.
That's the point most people say, that if they had primaries, maybe wangepata candidate bora.
Yeah, if they had primaries during primary season.
Yes.
Not primary when Biden decided to resign.
Yes.
Okay. And then a lot of comments.
Assumed, right?
Yeah. And then a lot of comments are also coming. A lot of comments are also coming on the YouTube side. I don't want to ignore the YouTube side. Trump MAGA is in the building. Trump MAGA, yeah. I don't know whether this is someone from Trump's team. Wamekuja sasa. Wanajitokeza. And we love this. We
big elephant in the room.
We actually want you guys to call in. 202-683-4570. Press star 5 to speak. Trump MAGA, please call us. This is your opportunity to, celebrate, to jubilate, to say I told you so. This is your opportunity. The number to call is 202-683-4570. Press star 5 to speak. Trump MAGA nasema, we are watching from Washington State. It is not about Muslim or Christian. It is about human needs, education, health, economics. I will always repeat this. The experience of being a Muslim and being a Christian are entirely different. I know sometimes people like lumping it together and defining Islam by the way they see Christianity. The experiences, I will tell you, from a first-hand experience. I've been a Muslim from as far as I can remember. I was born a Muslim, so I'll tell you. And of course, I've lived in Christian spaces. I've lived in a country where Muslims were a minority. I've come to the US where we're even more of a minority. So I think we usually don't verbalize this much. The experiences are very different, and I challenge people, take time to learn and understand the differences and why people see things very, very differently. Later on, we're going to be talking about the Gaza genocide and what impact it may have, as far as this election is concerned. But we want to, slip back a bit to the conversation that we're supposed to be having today. Yeah. And we know that Trump's first term was marked by stringent immigration policies, including increased deportations, certain restrictions and limitations on asylum seekers. And currently, we know we have thousands of Kenyans who have who live in fear of deportation. We're not. This is not only a Latino issue. There are thousands of Africans, of Kenyans, who are living in fear of deportation, who are here either undocumented or maybe overstayed their visas, their student visas or visitor visas. Now, we don't know what a Trump this new term will mean, because now they're coming back more experienced, so they will not just be doing things randomly like they did the first time. They're coming back with more experience and more expertise. So, Dr. Wangusi, I'm going to come back to you. What do you think a second Trump term would mean for maybe Africans? Let's first of all stick to the African side and the Kenyans who are here either undocumented or overstayed their visas, because Kenyans don't like being called undocumented or illegal. So let's say they overstayed their visas. So they're here, without the right papers or bila makaratasi. Dr. Wangusi.
Yeah, so that's kind of the elephant in the room that we are here to talk about, sort of in the backdrop of how that win came about, as we were just discussing. So a couple of things to think about here is, first of all, let me first disclaim myself. So I am I come from a background of organizing. That's why I still kind of carry that tag as a social organizer. I was part of the Obama campaign. I was a field organizer both in North Carolina, in Florida, in some parts of South Carolina. I spent a lot of time in the grassroots trying to rally and canvass for votes. So I wanted to say that because I want to make sure that it's understood that this is the perspective of a lifelong Democrat. But Trump to the African community and Trump to the immigrant community at large, Trump to the rest of the world. There was just there was a video that went viral on I think TikTok and X over an Israeli soldier shooting and celebrating that Trump had won. And by and large, you're seeing the world celebrating that this guy has won, right? He is one of the most he is the most obnoxious, aggravating, insulting individual or cultural icon that pretty much the world has ever seen. He has a loud bully pulpit and he uses it at every opportunity. Yet he has not only won the hearts and minds of Americans on the basis obviously of the economy and other issues that we were discussing earlier, but he's also won the admiration of the world. And there's a good reason for that. The thing you need to understand is that voters are very pragmatic. People vote with their pockets, they vote with their consciences. And don't take them for granted when they make a choice. Democrats like to assume that, hey, the reason why people are doing that is because they are dumb, or they don't know him, or they don't understand him. People know and understand and listen to this man every day, but still they are celebrating. There's a reason why, and I'll tell you what I think it is. First of all, in terms of domestic policy, he talks a big game. We know what he did in 2020. Ali, I'll correct you. Immigration removals or deportations increased during the Obama years. We know that because we were part of that administration.
Yes, and
right?
let's actually get on to that, because there's confusion. There's confusion about that.
What they say and then what they do are two different things.
Yeah.
The difference between Democrats and Republicans pretty much boils down to one thing.
So I think when you say deportations increased in Obama's years, fair statement.
Three of my family.
Fair statement. Deportations increased in Obama's years, but I think it's also important to attach to that these deportations decreased in Biden's years. And you can go check those numbers. Yes, they did decrease in Biden's years.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to also juxtapose those two. So there's no doubt.
So the point I was
over
making
the 8 years, Obama did deport more people than Trump did over 4 years.
Over 4 years.
So let's also put that to perspective: 8 years and 4 years.
So what the point I was making, without belaboring that point, we can talk about that to detail later. But the point I was making is that Democrats say one thing and then they do another. Trump will tell you exactly what he's going to do. So you can trust his word, whether you like it or not, right? So the other thing, in fact, ICE, this organization, I think it was formed during the Obama years.
No. So Immigration and Customs Enforcement, and this is the confusion that I think that is there across the board. So immigration, so it used to be called INS, Immigration and Naturalization Services. After 9/11, that's when there was an overhaul on this, and it came with immigration and customs enforcement. So, and not, of course, we don't want to belabor this point, but what happened is that when ICE came in, and the way the funding was set up, it was set up to do certain tasks, and it was set up to increase.
But it was changed from a naturalization service, like a government
to a customs enforcement,
to an enforcement.
To security. Security, really.
But I want you to understand
that accelerated.
But I want you to understand, because like the technical side, and not justifying that Obama deported more people, but the way sometimes when these when these organizations, or rather when these agencies are created and the funding is set up, they usually start with a certain small amount of funding, and that funding keeps going up with a mandate on what to do. So ICE was formed during Bush's administration, and then so as its mandate expanded, like the numbers started increasing under Bush, and then of course in that natural increment as the Department of Homeland Security expanded, ICE expanded, so those numbers went up. Under Trump, they plateaued because we also got COVID. So that was another thing that also made them plateau, and of course also within Biden's administration there was COVID, so that also was
but let me move the point on. So the other thing you've mentioned is 9/11. So and this is why the Middle East, as well as and I think this is the same case in Eastern Europe. Remember, this war started during Democratic led presidencies. So we're not looking at the Bush years.
Which war?
So when we think about Trump was responsible for the Abrahamic Accords. So nothing had broke out just yet. But immediately he leaves, the whole Middle East lights up, right? If it was not for the Abrahamic Accords, the barrage of missiles that were sent over from Iran towards Israel, whatever side of the aisle you are, would not have been intercepted by the countries which were signatories, because they were getting military support.
Dr. Wangusi, I'll challenge you on that.
Yeah.
I will challenge you on that.
Yeah, I want to move the point.
Yes, we're going to move the point, but I think it is important for people to understand, because most people outside a few of us do not maybe necessarily go into these details.
Yeah.
So the Abraham Accords, and we have a caller, we're going to get to the caller. Again, the number to call is 202-683-4570, press *5 to speak.
Yeah.
So the Abraham Accords, these things are responsible for, you see the proxy war that's happening right now in Sudan?
Yeah.
Abraham Accords has something to do with it. You see the proxy war that has been going on in Yemen, where the Saudis have been killing Yemenis. This happened during the Trump administration. They killed more people than people who've been killed in Gaza.
I'm not even arguing that.
They killed more people.
Ali, I'm not arguing that. And I know this is a hot button topic for you.
Yes,
but let me hear my point.
It's not even about being hot button. It's about just people getting the right information.
And that is true.
It's about people getting the right information.
That's not the point I'm making. The point I'm making is that from the perspective of global geopolitics.
Yes.
So you have the Ukraine war that broke out. Then you have the Israel-Palestinian conflict. And we don't want to know who, we're not talking about who is responsible, who are the actors. We're just saying what the effect of these conflicts have had on the world with respect to Trump's presidency and Africa and other parts of the world. You asked me to answer the question, what is the effect of these presidencies on our continent? The direct effect of the Ukrainian conflict is that it has affected grain prices. The direct effect of the Israel-Palestinian conflict exploding as it did has had an effect on oil prices. What does that do to our local economies? All of a sudden, we have a famine. Famines are not weather events. Those are human events, right?
Yeah.
There's not enough grain. I think Kenya was supposed to receive about 400,000 tons of corn from the international market to kind of supplement its local supply.
Yeah.
We didn't get that because of this conflict. Because I think Russia pulled out of I think it's called like the Black Sea Grain Accord. So that happens, and all of a sudden the country goes into distress. And this is happening across the region. So what was already a bad situation gets worse. Same token, oil prices, there's inflation in the country. Next thing you know, you have the finance bill to try and meet those deficits. Next thing you know, there's protests on the street. So that's what I'm trying to say. Like, people make these associations. And this is why you're seeing this kind of salient support for Trump. Because they're like, during the Trump years, we suffered his foolishness. And that was it. Like, all we needed to do was suffer his foolishness. During the Obama years, there was the Arab Spring, and the whole region went up in smoke. Then during the Biden years, the whole world is like on the brink of like a world war because of.
But are we also going to add the Bush years or those ones?
Then we are going. That's going further back. But all I'm saying is, when people take a step back and look at the big picture, these are the things they see. All I see when I look at the Biden presidency, I'm like, the entire world like lit up, and previous to that, everyone was. We were battling with this COVID thing, but it was not Trump who created it. That was not a creation of imperialism. It was just a pandemic, and how he handled it was poor. But that was not his fault. And then he insults us. He calls us shit. What did he say? Shithole countries.
Yeah.
But
not only did he insult us, his policies were also his policies.
Not only did he insult us.
You get the point that I'm making.
Not only did he insult us
to answer the question.
But not only did he insult us, but he also placed Muslim bans. Like, these are real people,
and those are cause and effects. These
are real people who got affected.
Or isn't he the person who actually went and spoke to the OPEC countries and told them, stop drilling because my buddies in the oil industry in America are suffering, and I need them to be able to be the ones who are controlling production so they can increase the amount of oil in America so they can make money, and that's how gas prices went up, causing the inflation that's causing. When we point out these things, and you start saying during these years and during this year, that's a very lazy analysis of how issues are coming out, right? But then if we go back to the intricacies of how this happened, this is the same person who actually puts tariffs on farmers, puts tariffs on importers, and increase the prices of commodities that people consume every day. He put tariff on foreign alcohol, which caused the prices of beer going up. America consumes more than 70% of foreign beer. Put tariffs on whiskey.
Okay.
Put tariff. Hold up. Let me finish.
Yeah.
Put tariffs on manufactured goods that are coming in from outside of the country, which increased the prices of groceries up to now. On farmers, food production went high. So all this that you're saying right now and saying the Democrats, the Democrats suffered the correctiveness of his issues that are causing these issues. So when we start to give these political messages outside there and just say that during the Biden years, people remember this.
Micah,
let me finish.
Yeah. Micah, let me
Let me
just
finish.
let me make a point.
Let me
correct you here.
So, interject.
So all I'm saying is, what do people see, whether it's true or not? Because the economic
Perception.
It's just
Okay.
people vote, people like people
Based on perception. So
based-
it's not
that's all I'm
necessarily
saying.
true.
It's not necessarily true.
Okay, good.
It is
All
not
right.
true that Trump saved the world. That is not true. But the perception is
The perception that's
why
there.
is the world lighting up during and maybe it's we know, for instance, that there's been a lot of effort towards like managing the situation in the Middle East by both administrations, but most of the Democratic side, because they're on the side of mostly on the side of those who are being oppressed.
Okay.
That's the right moral position to take.
All
But
right.
what the world sees when they look at this situation, they're like, wait, no, it's not. The world lights up when there's a Democratic president, and then things calm down when the Republicans.
Okay, all right.
Those are
But
just perceptions.
Okay,
that
we're going to
people
get
have.
back to that. We have a caller, and I
we have a
want to
caller,
remind
yeah.
the listeners the number to call is 202-683-4570. Press star 5 to speak. And also reminding you that tonight's show is brought to you by money transfer app Lemfi. Check the comments on both the YouTube and the Facebook side. The pinned comment, click on that link, download the app. And we're giving out $30 for the first $100 sent on your first transaction. So please let us know how your experience using Lemfi is. Asante sana. And we're going to be talking about a number of things later on in the show. Like there's a U.S.-Kenya relations under Biden versus Trump. There was a number of trade deals that President Ruto, or rather a number of deals that President Ruto signed with Biden when they came for a state visit a few months ago here in the U.S. What's the fate of those deals? What is the fate of Ambassador Meg Whitman? She's become very unpopular in Kenya. So these are the things that we're going to be talking about. So I want you to stay tuned. But we have a caller. Bandio, please tell us the last 4 digits of the caller.
Thank you for calling One Mic Show. Lot 4 is 5834. Hello.
Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
5834. Hello.
Caller.
Bonyeza.
Press star
Nyota
5. Press star 5 to speak.
You
Oh, is already on? Okay. Yeah, I think I'm in
Nimeshai.
Tumbo Joto. I think he or she is
Hello
shy.
there.
Okay, ndo huyo hapo. Yeah, tell us your
Hello,
name
my
and
name
where
is,
you're calling from.
Kamau. I'm calling from Washington State.
Aya, karibu sana Kamau. Please talk to us.
Uno Trump.
Kamau, talk to us.
Kamau, we are listening.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yes.
now we can hear you. Go ahead, Kamau.
No. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
loud and
Can you
clear.
hear-
Come on.
Kamau, we can hear you
my
loud
name
and
is
clear.
Kamau.
Yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to say one. I just wanted to say one thing here.
Mhm.
I am saying, I think it would be wrong to just say that Kamala lost the election because she was a woman. I don't think that is the whole picture.
Mm.
I think there is a variety of there are so many things that we need to talk about. Things like the economy, things to do with health, and things to do with security, and many other things.
Okay.
For example, let me give you an example. Like when you talk about the men becoming women, I think even for us who have come from Africa, that is not something that Africans can even begin to talk about. When you start to see men wearing women clothes, and you see them in the White House, what does that say about our culture? I think so. My point is there are many things that contributed to her loss. The issues of, as I said, economics, health, social, cultural issues that I think the Democrat Party has tried to sell to people, things that don't really make sense. And my final point here is about one of the contributors there was talking about prices not being the cause of why this election has gone the way it has gone. And I would like him to, he can go to Google and see that the prices, like for example in 2018, things were not, the prices were not the way they are now.
Yeah,
Okay.
grocery prices,
We
gas
had- and
prices,
people
like
fill
for
those-
example
that
here in
page,
Washington.
right?
But we had a pandemic. It's
Yeah.
unfair to even
Yeah,
put that on any
yeah,
president.
I'm talking about-
no,
I'm
that's what
talking
I'm saying.
about
Let's
before
let
that
Kamau.
pandemic.
Okay,
Wait,
go ahead,
guys.
Kamau.
Let's let Kamau finish.
Finish, yeah.
Go ahead, Kamau.
Yeah, like before the pandemic, what the price of gas, like here in Washington, was like $2.5, and then immediately after that, gas goes all the way to $4,
So,
$5, $7.
Kamau, Kamau, can you go to
Yes.
Google with the advice that you've given me? Can you go to Google
Uh-huh.
and Google why the price of gas went up around that time? It was the guy who you're saying when the prices were low, the prices was low.
I
based on
am
the
talking
op-
about.
Oh, hold
I'm
on.
talking about
Let
what
me
I
answer
was-
you. You told me to go to Google. I'm giving you an answer that came from
Mhm.
Google, and then you can go to Google and look for your
Mhm.
own answer, right?
Mhm.
The prices
Okay.
of gas at that particular time, if you remember when you're coming from an economic crash when Obama was the president, right? There was a deal that was signed by OPEC on the number of barrels that are going to be produced, how much barrels are going to produce, and how much of those barrels is going to be distributed. And that is actually, remember, during the Bush administration, they had given the oil companies in America, they were the ones who were drilling, and they were the ones who were controlling prices, and prices had gone up. So Obama, and that was during the recession, and Obama was correcting it, and that had to ensure that OPEC was filling in the deficit to allow for the country to fill its reserves and have a continuous amount of gallons that were coming in, which was cheaper than the oil that was being drilled in this country, and reduced the prices.
Okay.
And that was the effect that Trump got in when that gas was that amount. But then his friends.
So if we can I say
Hold on,
something?
let me finish. His friends in oil and gas went and told him, "We are suffering. You need to tell OPEC to reduce production so we can start producing." And when we started producing, the American gas was more expensive, and that's what caused the prices to come into
So in your
the
opinion,
pumps
what
to you.
was the
So
price
all
of
these,
what was the
all
price
these
of 1
things,
gallon
all
of
these
gas?
things you guys are complaining about, it's because of him.
Okay,
It's
let's
the
give
after effect.
let's give Kamau a chance to Kamau dakika moja mbili, and then we're gonna continue. You can respond to what Mika said. I'll have to tuendelea. Kamau.
I was not going into the area of how the prices were in terms of barrels and all that. I am talking about what I was paying as a person and what people are paying.
Yes.
At the gas station.
Mika, wacha Kamau amalize. Wacha Kamau amalize. Kamau.
You see, for example, I was my car. I was filling my tank with like $25.
Yes.
And now, like even with $50-$60, I cannot fill my tank.
Okay.
So that's what I'm saying. You
Yeah.
know, it's one thing to talk about barrels of oil, they were costing this and that, but what is the effect when you go to the gas station?
No,
Yeah, that's what
people
people
vote
vote
on,
on,
true.
right?
Hold on.
That's true.
Let me
Now you have a
Yeah.
strong point there. That's what people vote
let
on.
me explain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The experience of people when they go, like for example, to the store to buy grocery, the egg prices are high. When you go to the gas station, the gas prices are high. When you go to pay your rent, like in Seattle, rents are just so high.
True.
And so you cannot. Sometimes it's the experience that people are going through that matters a lot, or that carries the day.
Now, Kamau,
and I think
I
that
have
is-
a quick challenge for you before we let you go, so we don't belabor this point.
Okay.
What you're saying is true. Like whatever people feel, most people don't take time to figure out, like how is a barrel price. They just see this is the price that I paid. This is the how much I paid
Exactly,
for food.
that's what I'm saying.
That's all people see. That's true. But now, like just juxtaposing this to what happened in Kenya in 2022, because there was a very popular candidate who was promising like very popular things, who had been a vice president for a number of years. But now 2 years later, people are out crying. And I understand where you're coming from. Like a voter will simply see, like I used to pay this for this. The company I work for example, the goods that we sell, they are 40% higher from where they were in like 2021 or 2020. So that's something that's very visible. But do you think it's important for also, like an informed voter like yourself? It's the first time I'm talking to you. You sound very informed. For an informed voter like yourself to also sometimes try to look at things in a three-dimensional view, in the sense that of this is something that the sitting president had control. They did not do anything, and that's why it went this way. Or this is something that they had no control over, so let me also not bring it up. Do you think it's important so that we can start getting quality leaders? Because when you juxtapose in Kenya, those bread and butter issues, those are the issues that people voted for, and we just had an uprising. You know, like not too long ago.
But remember,
not too long ago. Let's let Kamau speak, and then we're going to get back to studio.
Ali,
Yes.
And before Kamau goes,
Ali,
I
maybe,
want to respond
let
to
me just-
something.
Yeah, go ahead, Kamau. Yeah.
Before I go, I think, Ali, we are trying to, I think it's good not to confuse so many things. If we are discussing about America, let's discuss about things about America. If we are going to discuss things
unajua
about
nini,
Kenya,
Mika, wacha Kamau amalize. Wacha Kamau amalize.
Nitaanza kwa
Mika.
mute
Yeah,
sasa.
yeah.
Okay.
yeah,
Kamau.
because I feel like I feel like we are all over. You know, we are all over. I mean, we need to discuss like one topic at a time so that people can follow what we are discussing. I joined this you guys today. It's a good program where people can come in and
Okay.
discuss issues. But I think it's good to say
Karibu, thank you.
these first 20 minutes we are going to discuss, let's say, the American election. After that, we are going to discuss about Gaza, etc. But I
Okay.
think if we jump from one topic to another, I think that confuses
Fair
even
point.
the
Fair
people
point.
who are following us. Yeah, I
Fair
think
point,
it's
Kamau.
good to at least to be
Yeah, fair point,
But
Kamau.
I get
And-
what you are saying.
Yes.
It's good. Again, it's good to be objective. You know, in all these discussions, let's be objective. Let's remove Trump out of the picture. You know, remove Kamala out of the picture, and let's look at issues as they
Okay.
are.
Okay, fair point. Now, please, Ukirudi in Washington State, please share this link with everybody in Washington State and tell them to tune in, because wajua Washington
we'll do
State ni mapema huko. You know, like huko kama ni jioni, huko kwenyu sijui ni asubuhi.
six
You guys
p.m.
live in a different country.
6 p.m.
You're like how many hours behind?
6:30 p.m.
6:30
Ah, bado ni
Ah,
mapema
yeah,
sana.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's very good timing.
Came from work,
yeah.
6:30 p.m. Yeah.
That's very good timing. Asante sana. Asante
Thank
sana.
you for
Send that
joining the
link
show.
to many
Thank you.
of our people, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll do that. Yeah.
All right,
Thank you so
sawa
much.
sawa. Let me come back to you.
So we were domestic. So by the time we were before we kind of digressed, as Kamau was saying. So all I was trying to say there was that people make these observations from a very biased point of view. I had a really interesting discussion yesterday, actually, on another TV show with our brothers from the Caribbean.
Barbados, yeah.
So there was a Barbadian, there was a Bahamian, and he said something really interesting. He told us that in the Bahamas, they don't watch Fox News because the limited access they have to television, like network television, only stream MSNBC and CNN.
Yeah.
It was a random topic, but the point he made was people are limited by that view. So when you're sitting in Kenya, and for Daniel, who I was describing earlier, or wale watu wa bodaboda na wamama wa kuuza mboga na
They're called
Yeah.
Wanjikos.
Wanjikos. Those
Mtu ya boda
locals,
boda.
all they know, the representation they have of the U.S. is this lady called Meg Whitman, right? She's who
Yeah.
represents us. And then, from our perspective, what we know is that the current president, Biden, legitimized our oppressor. That's how young people in Kenya look at the Biden administration.
Yeah.
He called him for a state visit, completely legitimized his existence, although his presence there was kind of contested, which is important for kind of this lively debate about like his policies. But by him being given a state visit, that's kind of the highest honor the U.S. government can give a foreign dignitary. Legitimizes his administration, and then that even gives him confidence to start completely breaking the rules, right? And then when a challenge came to his administration, what does he do? We talked about this the last time. He bulldozers and kills and maims young people because you've already legitimized this person's administration. Meg Whitman goes missing. She can't like now come out and start criticizing the same person. Only when people started calling out for her resignation just a few weeks ago do we then suddenly see her coming out and
Reappear.
saying, oh, apparently, oh no, the U.S., and in a very kind of canned way, the U.S. respects human rights and works closely with the Kenyan government to to account for human rights abuses, like just very kind of not even political, but like diplomatic language. And there's a problem there because this administration, the Harris administration, to the Kenyan people, has represented an opportunity for oppression. In fact, a lot of the news sources I've been kind of looking at are saying the Ruto administration is really nervous about Trump. One, because they don't know if they're going to call them out on their human rights record and policies. I don't think the relationship is going to remain as cozy.
No.
Many of the deals that they had cut, running from like clean energy deals, are not really aligned with the Trump administration's Africa policy. We know, about the existing mechanisms like PEPFAR, focused on HIV, but then Republicans traditionally have really cut funding on PEPFAR because some of the money is actually earmarked to like support
LGBTQ rights.
Initiatives, which it's debatable, but then from the perspective of a conservative country like Kenya or Uganda, they don't want those policies kind of,
then
growing
you have,
in their countries.
Yeah,
right?
then you have also AGOA, which is beyond
Then you have
Kenya.
AGOA, which is a trade deal that is also due for expiration.
Yeah, it has a
And-
sunset clause.
And the people who are benefiting the most from AGOA in Kenya, because there is like 1,800 different products, one of the big ones of which is textile. So the mitumba exporters and importers, large mitumba exporters, by the way, I don't know if this is public knowledge. I know this because I grew up in Eldoret, but most of them mitumba that we see in Kenya, it used to be a Moi family project. They used to bring it actually through. That's why
Eldoret,
Airport,
yeah, because
Eldoret
people used to
Airport
go
was
get
put
it. Yeah,
and
to
in
Eldoret,
fact, to date, I used to wonder until I asked one of the. I grew up in Eldoret, by the way, so I go there quite a lot. And our ushago kwetu ni karibu na Eldoret. And around 6 p.m., 7 p.m., there's a huge ship, like plane that comes in. It's like a Boeing something. What are these local like flights?
Yeah,
There's
a cargo
plane.
plane.
It's a cargo
And it's
plane.
in Aleta Mtumba. And AGOA is one of those provisions. They bring in Mtumba, we ship out textiles. And the people who own the textile companies in the, what do they call those EPZs?
Especially like export processing zone.
Yeah, those are the wealthies of Kenya, right? Those are the political class.
Yeah.
So there's a symbiotic relationship there that's going to be threatened. So if AGOA expires, and in fact the last time we had problems with that deal, the Kenya government had started to talk about like limiting mitumba and starting to build out textile industry, shoes and clothing manufacturers. And the big textile mitumba lobbies here in the US like push back really hard.
Yeah.
So if that expires, like people are going to get hit hard because
Okay.
they're using those mechanisms. So
There's rumors
there's
that
a lot
it
of
may
like
be extended. There's rumors that
there's
it
rumors that
Yeah.
it might be
So
extended.
we're gonna
but
get to
then
that.
It's likely.
Yeah.
It's likely that could be.
It's
something
likely
that
it could expire. They could let it expire.
and then there's Power Africa, which is it's seen as an Obama project.
Yes, so we're going to get to that.
and
There's quite a number of comments that were coming in here as we're having the heated conversations. Juliet A.O. says, undocumented simply means you never went through customs, which excludes most Kenyans. Yeah, I heard, there's a certain racket that has started that Africans are now also coming through the southern border of the U.S.
Congolese.
Through Mexico.
No, even
Yeah.
Kenyans.
No,
Kenya.
but Trump
Yeah.
mentioned Congolese, Nigerians, and I think
Yeah,
Congolese.
yeah, he
So when they
mentioned-
talk
yeah.
about when they talk about the crisis at the border,
Yeah.
it includes everyone. By the
Yeah.
way.
Because
Yeah.
I know one boy from TZ who went, I think, with TZ to Congo and then Congo to the borders.
I was
Oh,
approached
wow.
by a travel agent. By the way, one time I was approached by a travel agent of a pretty well-known travel site.
agency.
Yeah, I won't mention the name.
Don't.
But they asked me, do you know people who want to fly to like Nicaragua? I was like, why would a Kenyan be going to Nicaragua? It took me a while. Then finally I was
okay.
like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And then you're connected
Yeah.
to a
And
coyote
then you're
who
connected
takes
to a
you.
coyote who
Yeah.
brings you over the border.
Okay, Apa Luis Muyana Sema, today a Trump-appointed federal judge struck down Biden's program shielding immigrant spouses from deportation. Basically, undocumented spouses and stepchildren of U.S. citizens cannot process their green card application while in the U.S. They are now
have to
considered
leave,
out of
yes.
status and have to leave the U.S. to process their application from outside. And then And then Brao Bazenga says that's a lie. It happened in August.
But again, that is somebody who was not someone who came in illegally.
Yes, that's people who came in
someone
illegally.
who came in illegally.
Now the interesting thing.
If that means if their papers have expired, their legal status has expired.
According to what Luis Muya has written, he says basically undocumented spouses, and I don't know whether it includes people who've overstayed their visas.
You see, coming in legally means that you crossed some point where you are given.
You overstay your visa, you're documented.
You're documented.
Yes.
But now we actually have to go read that ruling to see the wording to make sure
that I think it said
the wording on the ruling is undocumented. Like if somebody
yes. Okay, I agree with you, but you know, like I always tell people,
if you came in with a banana boat,
I always tell people to go and check because if you've overstayed your visa, you're not undocumented, but you're illegal.
Yeah,
you're not undocumented, but you're illegal.
Yeah. Let me just point out something with respect to immigration at the border.
Yeah, but real quick before we get that, let me just go through some of the comments here. Luis Muya says, let me save you a simple Google search. It was put on hold in August. The ruling was done today. So I think this is something we're actually going to get an immigration expert to come and give these things in detail.
I think Fatmata might be
listening. And then Adhiambo Dak says Chinese and Indians are also coming through the southern borders.
Chinese.
So it seems
they don't come just to gamble.
They come in tour buses.
They don't just come to gamble. I mean,
yes. Yeah.
What?
Okay, sawa. Okay, sawa. So going back to immigration, we did not even exhaust that immigration topic.
So I was going to say, so I think the big difference between Trump and Biden, I don't think it's in policy, it's in the psychology, right?
Say that again.
I can see that, which goes back to perception.
It's just perception. Like
it goes back to perception.
It's all about perception. U.S. policy isn't going to change significantly. You know, like border guards. So you're not suddenly going to like take down all that infrastructure, right? So Biden will kind of run the policy without saying what he's doing. Trump will make outlandish threats.
I'll build a wall and make Mexico pay.
And make Mexico pay, exactly. So you as an immigrant, you know, trudging through the Amazon forest. Oh God!
Yeah,
come along.
He had to go back.
You know, you're sitting there. If there's a Democrat, you have hope. I don't remember what it was. What was that? What was that? Forgive me. My memory doesn't sound me right on this. But there was a law that was going to expire. What was that about? And people ran to the border. Is this
TPS? Is it TPS, the one for temporary protected status?
Temporary protected status. Okay. So all that is just psychological, right? So you're making this really arduous trip to the U.S. border that traditionally has only been done by like Mexicans across the border. I remember there was one time I grew up in I didn't grow up in Arizona. My family lives in Arizona. My brothers and sisters and my parents lived in Arizona. So I remember one time I was there, and my little brother
Arpaio.
my Arpaio actually in Maricopa County.
Yeah.
So my folks are actually in Maricopa County. But one time, my little brother, I think he must have been like in 5th or 6th or 7th grade, in middle school somewhere. One of his classmates was deported from class. The family had been zeroed in by ICE. They came, they hustled them out of class at around like 11, put them into ICE trucks and drove them across the border. You know, that's what they used to do. They would just drive across the border and dump them right there.
Yeah.
By the time we were going for soccer practice in the evening, those kids were back.
They
came back. Yeah.
They
had meandered Bila
They had
Coyote.
meandered. So before it used to be a Latin American problem.
Yeah.
Correct.
But then because the perception during Biden's administration is that the borders are actually open, we can actually make it across, right? So to your point earlier, it's just a perception thing. I don't think the policy is necessarily going to change so much, but people will be less afraid, right?
Let's
but I'll tell you the policies actually changed for Muslim countries. Yes, for Muslim. Under Biden, under Trump,
Well, we're talking about Kenya, but
Okay, yes.
yeah.
Yes, but you know, when you're talking about countries like Sudan, for example, which is also not too far from Kenya. So yeah, so this you know, I think for Kenya, you know, like in all honesty, maybe there might not be that big of a change
Yes.
between the two different you know, unless, you know, they ramp up deportations, because one thing that Steve Miller has said, you know, and Steve Miller is one of Trump's major advisors on matters immigration, and as you know,
Steve Miller, by the way, married a classmate from college.
Yeah. But he's one of the most extreme people. He was one of the most extreme people on matters immigration. And they're also planning to do some more. That's why it's you know, like it's a very interesting scenario what happened in Dearborn, Michigan, and we're going to be talking about that later. How, you know, like these Arabs decided to vote for Trump, yet their countries are the ones that get affected by especially these Muslim bans. I mean, I know they're just announcements, but because we interact with them every week in the mosque. Like, these are things that you hear live. You know, like,
Why do they do that?
Why do they do?
Why does a Muslim community choose to? I heard that about Latinos as well. Why are they choosing to vote for this guy?
So there was
he's threatening to deport their families.
So there was because of Gaza, there was a very big divide within the Muslim community. There was a movement to abandon the Democrats. So actually, people were being told to go vote for Jill Stein. But just for people to know the history of Muslims, the Democratic Party, Muslims are always Republican in the US because of the family values and everything. And then after 9/11, because Republicans were like, now we're going to deport all of you, we're going to kill all of you, so they abandoned the Republicans and went to the Democrats. However, there was still a silent group that remained within the Republican Party. So what happened during this conflict is kind of, you know, like most Muslims wanted to, of that idea, let's abandon the Democrats because of Gaza. And then there came a division. Should we abandon Democrats? Should we vote for Jill Stein? Should we do this and that? So a lot of people, now the scholars, the Islamic scholars, were saying, you know, like, move towards the third party. But what unfortunately ended up happening, and I've not looked at the numbers technically, is that for the Arabs who are busy telling people to abandon Democrats and vote for Jill Stein, quite a number of them ended up voting for Trump. So that's becoming an issue that we're also now addressing. You might attend.
How did she do though? Jill Stein.
Jill Stein has performed very poorly.
Very poorly.
Very poorly.
Extremely.
Even in Michigan,
my friend,
where she was supposed to get like 5% because of the Arab population, because the idea, you know, what was being sold to the community was go vote for Jill Stein. If she gets more than 5%, there's federal funding that she gets. The percentage that Jill Stein has got in this election is less than what she got in 2020. It's less than what she got in 2016. So all these people who are telling us to abandon Democrats and vote for Jill Stein either sat out or voted for Trump. So going by the numbers of Dearborn.
Okay, so we are back to US domestic, but we were supposed to be talking about
no. Yeah, but the other question.
Yeah, I'm thinking of if this was the other way around. Trump akawa na lead, alafu akalose this poorly. Na Jill Stein akalose. Na what is name? Elon Musk alikuwa anafanya vile vitu alivyokuwa anafanya. Mnafikiri Trump angekubali matokeo? Kwa sababu kila kitu kina line up to baadhi ya watu. Nimesikia Democrats wakisema kwamba maybe kuna kitu kimefanyika. Yani hii flip imekuwa kubwa sana kulinganisha na nani. Na sasa kuniambia na Jill Stein naye ameperform poorly. Mtu anaweza kafikiri kuna button ulikuwa ukiklik huku inampatia kura mtu mwingine. That point of discussion, like nakwambia no, the thing is kama ingekuwa imetoka, kama Trump angekuwa amelose hivi,
this would have become a conversation.
Yes, that's my point. Kwamba ingekuwa conversation. Not necessarily kwamba imehappen, lakini hii ina set platform ambayo angerun now. Imagine there was nothing
when margins
close.
are thin. You know, people start talking about election integrity when the margins are thin. But this one was such a huge landslide. Like, there was just no point. There's absolutely no point kuongea your maneno.
But even 2020 was it was also
but it's also Trump. Unajua pia Trump naye ni mnyama. Lakini I wanted to make one point here. So the way US foreign policy is written, particularly on the economic side, the kind of rationale is let's invest and stabilize. Back to my earlier point, Mika, you kind of gave me a bit of a lashing there, but the idea is that you're making investments in those countries so that people can stay and not have to immigrate. So I want to see what Trump will do with respect to like funding this really critical programs. Aside and I think this is where Democrats get
funding
it
them
wrong.
where?
No, I'm saying I think where Democrats get it wrong is because they focus more on the humanitarian as opposed to the economic. And this is Trump's kind of fundamental.
Could you give an example so that we can see a difference between humanitarian and economic?
Yeah, so AGOA and PEPFAR.
Yeah.
And Trump's program was called Prosper Africa.
Prosper Africa.
So
yeah.
he's defunded health and humanitarian and funded
economics,
Business,
right? Because the idea is let's grow those economies and trade so that
more money
is in those economies so that people
they don't have to come here.
They're not having to run away from the economies to come for economic opportunities in the US. That's kind of the thinking versus the Democratic side, which is like, let's just perpetuate poverty and make sure that people are not dying and starving and dying of disease.
And now
so I'll be really interested to see if they let AGOA expire, and if they let it expire, what they'll replace it with. So if they let PEPFAR expire, and if it expires, what
like a program like AGOA, I think because Trump is more of a perception kind of person, he's more interested on what will see him perceived as actually doing something. So AGOA, depending on where the mood of the people is at that particular time, he may be happy to let it expire.
Just for the shock effect, maybe?
just for the shock effect, because he's someone who likes that shock effect. But I see your point where you're saying, he's someone who likes focusing on the economic issues more than the humanitarian issues, because the humanitarian issues also they also have a feel good effect, in terms of we are doing this is America, we are doing this because America sometimes also does that because of soft power, because within that humanitarian there's other small things that they're trying to influence within your country, and they're also trying to do certain things to make your country rely on certain pharmaceutical products and certain things that only the US can supply. So it's generally a win-win situation for them. A number of comments are coming in here. I can see on YouTube.
This is on the perception that this is being done by the regular Republican establishment, not the Heritage Project Republican.
Is that a question,
right,
or a comment?
Yeah, it's a question.
Ebuse, repeat that question again.
This is on the perception that this is the perception that it's the regular Republican establishment and not the Heritage Project
or the Heritage
Republican
Foundation.
Heritage Foundation, yeah.
Wow.
Because if it's the Heritage Foundation, remember, that's not what they're looking to say.
Yeah, we used to think those guys are rabid until MAGA came around, right?
Correct. Yeah,
so,
they didn't think they were extreme. They didn't have
which Republican
wings.
Party are we seeing?
We're talking about MAGA. We are talking about Trump.
Yeah, because
if we're talking about Trump, then we should not expect him to do exactly what Republicans do, right?
So
what the Heritage Foundation has in plan for, nobody knows what they have in plan for the world.
What we do know about Trump's, and here when you say Trump, you mean the Trump presidency and kind of his administration. We know that they're isolationist, right?
America first.
Yeah. The rest of the world, Mujipange. But at the same time, he's also obsessed with taking down China as a political statement. He's obsessed with taking down China. So I expect that there'll be more investments to counter the China Belt Road Initiative and other funding mechanisms.
Now
just to limit the growth of China's power in the world.
Yeah, and
particularly in our region.
Yeah, and here's an interesting point you bring up, because remember there was a trade agreement that Kenya was negotiating with the US, a US-Kenya trade agreement. That
To
the
replace
negotiation
AGOA.
started. It wasn't to replace AGOA. This was just something totally. It was a separate.
This was
deal.
after the Biden.
This is a permanent.
Biden
This is a
Ruto.
permanent trade agreement. No, this started during the first Trump administration.
Oh, okay.
Correct.
Yes. So during the Biden administration, I think they kind of assessed the situation in Kenya because Biden is a very shrewd political player. He felt like a permanent trade deal is something very big we're giving Kenya, so he canned it. So the trade agreement, the negotiations were still going on, but he kind of canned it, and he came up with this thing called strategic, this thing that ended up leading to this state visit that came in. So because part of the plan of those trade deals that Trump wanted to sign with African countries, because the US doesn't have permanent trade deals with African countries. The only African country that has a permanent trade deal with the US is Morocco. That is the only country, and there's historical reasons why they have that trade deal. They tried to negotiate one with South Africa. South Africa are very hardball people, like they were not taking in all those little things that the US wanted, so it did not work out. So they came to Kenya. So the trade deal with Kenya, the plan was start with Kenya and then go to other African countries. So these ones were it was directly being said that this is how they want to influence how African countries also trade with China, because this is a permanent trade deal. So they were going to do it in Kenya and then move along to other sub-Saharan African countries. The problem with the trade deal that the US-Kenya trade deal, it was going in conflict with other trade agreements that we have, like the one within the East African community. And that's part of the argument that the Biden administration brought, that things have to be lined up. We cannot be bringing in trade deals whereby there's already an existing agreement, and this trade deal directly violates that. So that trade deal it's just my thinking, it might come back into play, because in Kenya, one thing that both the Republicans and the Democrats want, they want a military base. It is not a secret. It is known. And even part of this fanfare and this fiesta that we're seeing here, Ruto being wined and dined, is because Biden understood Ruto is a perception person, so I'm going to can this permanent trade deal. I'm going to give him this fanfare, and the plan is to get a trade deal, because there's already military presence in Manda. In Lamu County, and I think they want another military base. This article was even out. I used to read
there's been a steady stream of like security bosses in Kenya.
Correct.
Yes,
US
that they've been coming, CIA and all.
CIA,
So
the
they
UK,
want
MI6 and CIA.
So
and
they
FBI
want a
have all been
base.
there.
They want a base in Lamu. They also want a base in Turkana. I believe it's in Turkana. A permanent base.
The other part that is really interesting to this I'll definitely be watching. I'm actually talking about this on Monday with our Caribbean brothers. So this Haiti,
The police?
people have characterized it differently. It's the multinational
something. Yes. The force. Yes.
force.
Yes.
So it turns out that it was apparently like a cash for boots or a mercenary arrangement.
correct.
Where
Correct.
our police, unfortunately, our most elite police force are being sent. 1,000 of them are being sent
To Haiti.
not to peacekeep, but to basically
to protect U.S. interests.
in,
Yes.
Yeah, the mines.
in
Yes.
Haiti. So that deal was a deal that was done between, as you were saying earlier, these security deals were being done because Ruto is amenable, and it was a strategic interest of Biden.
Yeah.
I want to see whether Trump will kind of persist, because when Ruto sent his congratulatory message, one of the things that was highlighted as apparently they spoke about was like this Haiti deal, and the Ruto administration have really banked a lot on it. First, because it's a cash cow.
It's cash, yes.
Second, because it projects Kenya's influence in the world. Third, because the Ruto administration thinks it's a good thing for them, because they're obviously somehow benefiting. The other rider that they got from that deployment was this non-NATO status.
Non-NATO ally.
Non-NATO
Yes.
ally status. I'm really curious to see if the Trump administration will be
amenable to keeping things status quo.
What I'll tell the diaspora is that this is our opportunity, because Trump I was surprised. I don't know if anyone was watching how he was directing his own tweets, which is really unusual for like a politician at his level. So he's a guy who reads tweets. Elon Musk and all these other kind of surrogates around him are also like ex-residents. Like, so I think Kenyans on Twitter, Kenyans in general, and Kenyans particularly in the diaspora, we should take advantage of that opportunity to like
and ask him for stuff on Twitter.
Push for what we want. If what we want is Meg Whitman to be recalled,
they've already written to him.
Oh, they've already written to him.
Yes,
if what we want is our boys to come back home, apparently they're not even being paid. They've been deployed into this like hostile country, or we have a different proposition.
The money has been given to the government. Has the government given it to them?
Yeah, but there are no indicators. Like we also don't have any example, because we know that Trump is an isolationist. He also doesn't like NATO and its allies. He doesn't like the whole proposition of like the U.S. being required to pay all this money in what he calls shithole countries to like manage security situations. So I don't know what's going. I get the sense that
overall, if it's bringing money to the economy, I think he's going to stick with it. But and that mineral that's in Haiti, which is only one other place that has it. What's that mineral? Ile ya Wakanda. The one that was in the movie Wakanda.
Vibranium.
Well, anyway, it's a something yam. It's one of these funny ones. Yeah. And there's only two places where that thing is.
So what's the interest? I haven't taken enough time to like unpack. What is it about Haiti?
No, America has had interest in Haiti for more than a century.
Oh yes,
because they've occupied. They've occupied Haiti.
What's the commodity? Like what's the?
There's
a mineral. I'll have to go back and do research. Maybe one of our listeners is going to tell us.
All right, so let me read a few comments.
We have comments.
Let me read a few comments here, and I want to remind the listeners the number to call is 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. Of course, we have Dr. Nathan Wangusi in the studio, and we are discussing, like the just concluded U.S. elections and what impact they may have in Kenya and even on us here living in the U.S. And also reminding you that the show is brought to you by money transfer app Lemfi. We're giving you $30. Please download the app. We have a link on Facebook and on YouTube pinned up. Just click on the link and it will take you straight. The code is ONEMIC, ONEMIC. Download this and make sure you go claim your $30. So there's quite a few comments here being made by Resilient on YouTube. Resilient says, I hate to report the country is moving right. Most counties in blue states are flipping bread. This is something to watch for. Check out Minnesota, New York, and New Jersey. And then Resilient Father says kitchen table issues, border crime, economy, the ground game, mobilization, won elections. Plus, you forget Harris was such a bad candidate. No policies, just personal attacks and identity politics. Already, Mexican government has ordered its troops to stop the 3K migrant caravan from proceeding to the U.S. Some of those countries know there is a new sheriff in town. And then my Remo here says the Elon Musk effect will be interesting to watch. I think he spent about $130 million on the campaign, thanks to Citizen United. And then Resilient says Elon is tired of the status quo in D.C. and people being silenced by Joe administration and social media. I wish him all the best. He will be a formidable force combined with JFK,
and he
Tulsi, Vivek, etc.
He joined Trump today's call with Zelensky.
Okay.
That was official.
All right. Okay. Interesting. So now he's also going to be making geopolitical decisions.
Yes.
And then... and then Trump Maga anasema Ruto lost big time. We can arrange and meet Trump as Kenyans. And then Resilient says DJT will not entertain mediocrity from Ruto. Leo watu wa Trump wanajitokeza.
Watu wanajitokeza
wamekuja. Yeah, that's what we want. That's what we want.
Na ndio maana ninaheshimu sana Peterson Kamau kuingia hapa kwa sababu ametoa
mtazamo. Na mpige simu, wacheni kukaa kwenye
yes,
mtandao.
202 resilient 202
it's very
683 4570 press star 5 to
Wameweza
speak.
kujitokeza polepole.
Yeah, because
good at comments,
up it's a people's kamkunji. I mean, I know of course we air our own personal opinions. We do not shy from airing our personal opinions, but that does not mean that if you have a contrarian opinion, you're not welcome.
That we will silence you,
Yes.
supposedly, like what was it?
Mimi
yeah.
mi najua kuna Wakenya hapa wanakuwa matramplican. Mjitokeze tu
Mjitokeze tu, hakuna problem. Yeah, so resilient no DJ Chris Rain anasema for the Haiti agreement, the Kenyan police are being paid $2,100 a month salary for those deployed. That's something that we need to fact check.
Are they actually getting it? Is maybe
that's
he knows something that we don't know.
That's something we need to fact check.
Good money.
They were complaining that they were not being paid a few months ago, but that's something that we need to fact check.
Fans has been
And then Resilient says Meg needs to go ASAP. So it seems nobody likes Meg Whitman.
I think it's just Resilient who doesn't like Meg Whitman.
If enough people on X, talk about that.
Si amejitokeza jana.
From the hole or from behind the nini?
Okay,
embassy.
and then Upper Trump Maga anasema Haiti has a variety of minerals including gold, silver, copper, bauxite, calcium carbonate, and marble. Gold geologists estimate that they are at hata jamalizo statement yake. And then Kid anasema is the mineral iridium.
Yes, it's iridium. That's the mineral I'm talking about. There's only 2 countries in the world that have it, and in fact the ones in Haiti, they say a ton of that is worth 45 billion.
Yeah, and then Resilient. Yeah, Resilient says, I've always supported Trump. Thank you for allowing us on your we want you to call 202-683-4570.
Studio.
Yeah, if you're local, Resilient, we don't know what state you're tuned in from. If you're anywhere close, you're within 1 hour, even within 2 hours, or if you
will open the door for you.
We'll open the door for you. That's what the people's kamkunji is about.
In fact, you have about 45 minutes.
So I do have a challenge for the diaspora. Kwanza watu wenye wako kwenye mtandao.
Johnson Chelimo, karibu.
Yes.
Yeah.
Karibu.
I have a challenge here. Uyu Meg Whitman, we all agree that she's the people's enemy. Number 1.
I met her. She didn't sound that bad.
And she's caused us immeasurable problems because
I met Ruto too.
She's the one who was the architect of this whole state visit. As a result, she was also the architect of the bill.
It's being said that she's also the architect of the Haiti.
No, she is. That is known. She's the one who's the architect of this Haitian deal. Let's just join the chorus in getting this woman out.
Okay.
And you know, by the way, she sounded really nervous. I don't know if you listened to the
when she came out. I haven't.
I think like yesterday she came out and gave a statement where she was like, "Oh, you know, administrations change. We are going to see what is going to happen now that we have a new president. But while I'm here,
you
know, she was trying to kind of justify herself. But that woman has no peace. That lady can't go anywhere in Kenya and have peace.
Okay, we have another call.
Back, yeah.
We have another call.
You see, callers.
Yeah, 202-683-4570. Press star 5 to speak. Just before we take the caller, like a few comments also coming on Facebook. Evans Marube says statistically 2008 to 2012 deportation was in high. Trump is more rhetorical. Latino voted for Trump. Deportation is a legal process. That felony is critical. And then Adhiambo Dak says, so I thought renewing my passport now is a good idea, but some people think I'm worrying too much and panicking like an anxiety attack. What say Listaki maswali za Steve Miller?
Which passport?
Odhiambo Dak will tell us which passport. And then she's asking, can you please discuss a J.D. Vance presidency? Trump amekula McDonald's za kutosha and the ugliness he has spewed so far imeweka kelele kwa roho. Wife pengine ako shopping for the next divorce attorney. And this is something, there's actually, some medical guy who was saying, I can't remember his name, that Trump has a 1 in 3 chance of making it through the end of his term because of his age. He has a 1 in 3 chance.
No, but you like Trump knew what he was. He had a broad plan.
Nafikiri tumwombe Trump amalize kuliko huyu kiazi mwingine akiingia.
Okay, I know. J.D. Vance, my goodness.
Kwa sababu akiingia, I'm almost certain kwamba akimaliza miaka 4 Trump, Vance hawezi kushinda.
No,
ila
that's
akiingia
true.
kama
That
akiingia
is
kama
very
kama
true.
yuko.
akiingia kama Trump
akiingia
alafu
sasa
akaingia
aingie kama
incumbent,
incumbent, yeah.
ana chance.
No, unajua kama incumbent he's possibly going to stay in power for 10 years.
Yes.
Because if you become
if
a
he finishes
president,
a term, it's a term for that president. It's
no,
not your term.
no,
right?
no, if you finish that, if it's before 2 years, if it's
Okay,
before
if
2
it's-
years,
okay.
if it's before 2 years, it counts as a
As a-
full
as a
term.
full
But if
term.
it's after 2 years, you can still, it doesn't count as a term, so you can still go and run for 2 terms.
Kama
So
Samia.
yeah, so Evans
Kama
Marube hapa, I don't want to miss
Kama
this
Samia,
comment.
Tanzania.
Yeah, I don't want to miss this comment. Evans Marube says Trump is more of a businessman, less of a politician. His focus will be of undocumented felony, not of overstayed document. Lots of immigrants work in Trump homes and golf course. Trump has investments in Saudi and across. Watu wa Trump wamekuja leo.
Evans,
And
upige
then,
simu tukusikie.
And then maybe ni moja wala amepiga. And then Evans Marube
Hapana.
anasema
Amedrop huyo.
diaspora has more proximity and financial muscle to influence policy and governance. Good enough. There's a Minnesota Kenyan rep whom we interviewed a couple of weeks ago, just before she won. Congratulations to Hulda Momanyi Hillsley. We're going to talk about that later. Let's pick up the call right now.
Dropped.
Oh, dropped.
I thought there were two.
alishikwa na
They
wasiwasi
both-
huyo.
Aliingia
dropped.
tumbo joto.
Drop.
Aliingia tumbo joto.
Labda
Okay.
alicall to listen, japokuwa alikuwa amepress star 5. So
Okay.
they need to know.
Or maybe we read their comment and so they saw no need to. Okay, tuendelee.
Lakini ningetaka
okay.
kusikia sauti.
Okay, and then Junoburu is watching. Thank you so much for tuning in, Junoburu. And then I see also Afro Jamaica is tuned in. Keep your second passport or even a third. Afro
In
Jamaican,
fact,
karibu
get as
sana.
many passports as you can.
Yeah.
Kwa nini?
Ask
Yeah.
me why.
Kuna ya Haiti.
Because you know,
Inabidi tutoroke.
I get you know they've always said that having an American passport you open a lot of doors. Not necessarily.
It makes it expensive if you're going to Kenya, for example.
Yeah, not necessarily.
Ukienda Tanzania.
That's why I'm
Ukiwa unaenda Zanzibar na US passport.
Ni kama 200 sijui na
My
200.
friend.
By the way, Zanzibar now has a new fee for I don't think your fee affects our West African community. I'm not sure.
Lakini kama
Yeah.
hauko kwenye East Africa, yani
There's a new fee they have, an insurance that you must buy.
Karibu Jane,
There's a health insurance that you must buy now when going into Zanzibar. Mika had something you wanted to say. Mika.
Anataka kutubash. Sema Mika, lakini nyinyi.
Na mimi nauliza tu nyinyi mkifika huko kwenu mnatumianga hiyo passport bado.
You know legally
Kwa sababu
legally
passport moja.
Inakwanga kurudi.
Apana,
Hakuna dual citizenship.
Mika, remember that TZ doesn't have dual citizenship. So in Bandio's case,
Yeah.
if he has pledged American, he's American all the way.
Bandiwe akitoa hiyo anakamatwa papo hapo.
Yes.
Anakamatwa papo hapo.
So-
Na tunamuona kwa Millard Ayo. Amekamatwa. Mubelwa Bandio.
Who was the guy who interviewed us here? What's his name?
Charles Hillary.
Yes. So Charles Hillary will be interviewing him.
Yeah.
Because Charles Hillary is looking for me. You know,
Yeah.
he figures I'm somewhere in TZ.
Yeah.
Because I had said I was gonna move.
Okay.
That was what 2016.
2016.
boy.
Yeah.
No, Bandio, sisi utoa passport ya America tukirudi.
Nyinyi mna dual.
Correct.
Sisi huku sio tu the challenge sio tu kwamba kuna passport moja lakini pia alisha expire. Kwa hiyo ina maana sasa hivi walishabadilisha. So inabidi uende ukatafute passport mpya ina muonekano mpya. Kwa hiyo sio kwamba unaweza ukacarry on ile ya zamani.
The new one, the new
The new-
digital.
yeah,
Digital.
digital.
Sasa hivi
Zile za
passport.
zamani hazitumiki tena.
Yes, it's the new digital.
Bandio.
lakini kuna watu wanambaka na nini kila kitu. Aha.
Bandio
Tumekuwa kwenye
Mika,
mtandao.
wacha Mika had something to say, then we're going to come to you.
No, I was saying, Bandio, you know the funny thing is right now, mimi nikienda Zanzibar natumia tu ID ya Kenya. Hata si need passport.
Lakini
Just the ID.
ukienda Zanzibar unless umevuka from Dar es Salaam na boat.
Yeah, from Dar.
Yeah.
Unapitia Dar,
But me, I had an experience. Mi nilikuwa nafikiria yani I had an experience. Unajua sote ni East African community. Nimeenda Wilson Airport na nini? Na ID. Yeah, to go to Zanzibar. Nikambo hakuna ndege una board. So you cannot fly. If you're flying, you have to have a passport.
Because the aviation rules.
Yeah.
If you're flying, you have to have a passport.
Aviation
Nikasema lakini mimi
Lakini kama
hakuna.
if you're flying to Rwanda or Uganda,
No, you need
you
a
don't.
passport.
No, you don't.
You don't need a passport?
Unaweza enda na ile cheti.
No, ID.
Na ID.
Na ID hauwezi, lazima ukuwe na ID na ile travel pass.
Okay.
Ile
tell us what the travel pass is.
Actually,
nikakadi tu.
wacha nikwambie, the thing they were actually asking for more was the yellow fever certificate.
Oh yeah.
Correct. That TZ, yes, I remember that.
Yeah.
Sasa kwenye mtandao kuna msongamano ya watu ambao wanasema ati they want this huyu jamaa anaitwa nani? King Kong kutoka Equatorial Guinea asipewe visa.
King Kong ni nani sasa? Who is King Kong?
King Kong Engonga.
Ule jamaa kupiga mlango.
Ebang Engonga. Yani he has a name that suits his personality.
No, but that's what he does. He bangs and he gongas.
I mean, I don't know who this guy is.
What else would you call him?
Lakini wanasema asiwachiliwe visa kwa sababu atakuja kufanya matatizo.
Atakuja kubang na kugonga.
They're not going to tell us aliwachiwa.
I would actually like wacha nikwambie mimi honestly I would like somebody in Kenya to do Kenya jamaa define. That is hiyo maybe ni itapea majamaa ibo acha kuwa na kiburi wako. Imagine Ruto huyo jamaa ndio Kindiki
lakini huyo jamaa
alafu sijui na alafu akuja MP
MP pastors
Mika imagine yani
bwana zungumzia pastor
wa Kenya uko
amemdinya mpaka mke wa dadake mke wa nani mke wa kaka.
You guys this show is we're going away from where we was.
Okay,
think about it.
Back to Trump.
Imagine
back to Trump. Okay, so Trump
alisema ngoja Mika malize.
Mika akigusa kwa Engonga hata
yeah.
No, imagine this sort of content in Kenya. Like they have this to attack those politicians with. Kila siku court watoka je Cox
wacha niwapatie connection kati ya jamaa
alafu na kitu moja Kenya
ngoja Mika malize. Yeah.
The one thing that most people in Kenya fear than anything else, ukwaibu. If you ever notice in Kenya, if you want to do something, shame somebody online, and you're gonna get results.
Yeah, KOT. That's why KOT.
So there's a connection between Trump and Engonga. So Trump once said, kuna wakati Trump anasema, he said, when he made that whole comment about Africans being, he said we are good at stealing. In fact, he talked about Kenya. He said Kenyans are good at stealing and
a bang and gonga.
400
bang and gonga.
Yeah. But at least that's something that's a story. I mean, that was a very weird story.
That was a weird story.
But it's something that gave, like a break
some
to people on a week when people were having a lot of torture. Yeah.
But Ali, this thing here speaks to the volume of how things are done in African countries, and they are done to the detriment of whoever is against something or policy or government or whoever is in power. Because if these guys came in, they were doing an investigation on fraud, they picked this information up, they had it. Who leaked it?
Yes.
And how did those 400 things go out? And it's one by one. And everybody says it's okay.
Ni mmoja watu kwenye investigation
and I personally, my theory is this.
So sad.
So this guy, what he was doing is consensual. It looked like it's
correct.
It doesn't look like
the only part that was wrong to me is that he did it in his office.
No, but I think the fraud investigation is
it could be a cover.
It could be a cover because
somebody wanted to out
powerful people.
They knew
have been embarrassed, so they want to get him down.
Because surely, if these people are lining up in his office, there's no one who's seen that it's just mamas who are coming in like that.
Like
but maybe this was over a span of 5 years.
It doesn't matter what span.
It's
going to be.
So 5 divided by 400. That's what 80.
No, 90% of those things were in the office.
Tunakola.
Wacha tumsikie Mika, and then we're gonna go to the caller. Maybe the caller is gonna bring us back to what we're talking about. Mika.
The funny thing is that if we go based on what we read online, is that the videos of those who were exposed were people who are
wives
related or wives to powerful people. Like hawaku expose zote 400, wali expose certain who was bibi ya minister magani sijui.
Now, of course, those are the ones which will become the most popular.
So
viral.
So again, which goes back to that point, is like if at all there was that corruption investigation.
No, I don't think there was a corruption investigation. I think that was
anything.
Just
As in, I just believe.
Kuachilia
ilikuwa tu ni
walimweka mateka.
Wamemphotoshop na Ballon d'Or.
Yeah, balloon.
Tupokee simu.
Haya.
Pokea simu.
All right.
Tupokee simu.
All right, caller. What's the last 4 digits?
All right, thanks for calling One Mic Show. 5483. 5483. Hello.
Okay, all right. Tell us your name and where you're calling from. 5483.
Welcome to the One Mic Show.
Yeah, this is Idrof. You hear me?
Yes.
Gidrof, tunakusikia loud and clear. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine and leave. Thanks so much for a great show.
All right, thank you so much. Talk to us. Talk to us.
From where?
Where are you calling from?
I'm in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
The people who we need to hear from.
Leo hauko Reading?
He didn't go shopping. Reading is where people. He didn't go shopping today. Atarudi kesho.
No. I'm right here. Just got home.
Okay.
You're listening to you guys.
Yeah, you're the guys who gave Trump the presidency.
No, not me anyway, but we are one. Yeah, right.
Talk to us, Gidraf.
Majirani.
Kabisa. Just a quick comment here. Yeah, I've been listening to Daktari, and I really agree with a lot of what you have said. But just to chip in and say this, that the U.S. actually, the way I see it, has what I would loosely call an imperial template, and it is on this that all these presidents operate from. But they define certain areas, like the obvious differences between Republicans and Democrats. But there's a certain thing that they always look at, and Trump has been especially loud on this: the America First policy. And the way I see it is that the way he's gonna go ahead with Africa, with Kenya, he's gonna move forward with this America First. He's gonna look at how is any engagement with Kenya and Africa benefiting the U.S. And I don't think he'll just dismiss these engagements on the basis of they were from the previous administration. He's a pragmatic guy, and he's gonna be like, how are we benefiting from this? For example, Haiti. He realizes that the U.S. will benefit from Haiti, whatever they are doing there, and he will do an analysis. And there's a very high likelihood that mission will continue. And and then if you guys remember, I can't remember the exact name Obama gave to this policy, where he was like, he was going to be pulling back from all these forever wars, and other countries will have to do the fighting for them. And we are seeing this happening in Russia, Ukraine. So I know Trump is against this war, but this is also the template that Trump will also operate from. How can we reduce our presence out there? Yeah. So I don't know if I'm making
absolutely
some sense.
You're making sense, because apparently, based on what's being reported today, is that on the phone call that he spoke to Zelensky, he assured Zelensky that what they had agreed on before is going to happen, which means he's still going to support Zelensky. It's just maybe the terms of support are going to be a little bit different than how Biden was doing it. So you're totally right in terms of that. And then in terms of Kenya, what most people see, maybe he might negotiate and take concessions on the carbon credits, because one of his running was he doesn't want to do he wants to pull America from the Paris Accord. But then again, that might be reduced by them extending the limit, the year of when they want all vehicles to be electric. They might negotiate and change and say it's not 2030, let's move it to 2050, and then it keep the country.
But if Elon Musk is close, he doesn't want that, right? Yeah.
Again, at the end of the day, you have to realize he doesn't have Elon Musk alone to please.
Yeah, Jidraf.
He has a lot of people that he has to please and he has to negotiate, and also at the end of the day, he has, as you say, he has to run on a certain template. As tulisema perception, alisema atabuild wall. He never built a wall. He always has perception of what he's going to do. So the same thing that we assume, we are speaking on assumption right now, is that when those negotiations are happening, it's going to be more of like what's good for the country. Now in Kenya, so those carbon credits might be the ones that have been sacrificed, but then we see things like what the agriculture bill that is sitting on right now, where we want all of a sudden cows in Kenya need vaccination. All of a sudden, indigenous grain is not supposed to be grown. We're supposed to be growing all these GMO grain that's supposed to be coming, apparently being pushed by Bill Gates, who all of a sudden decided to be what he wants to be the biggest farm in the world and buy farms everywhere in the world. So those are things that he's going to look at and like, okay, so this benefits us, it doesn't benefit us. How does this translate back to American dollars? How does this translate back to American supremacy? And I honestly think Kenyans expecting a lot to change with Trump should really be ready for that disappointment. Yeah, because as long as, as it will make sense for America, it's gonna stay in place.
I wanted to ask Jidrof a question. Jidrof, there's a really important point you make. I've really never thought about it like that. That America works from an imperial template or script. So what differs is with this presidency, you inherit a military complex, you inherit certain instruments of power depending on, how much leverage you have in both the House and the Senate. You inherit the office of the presidency itself, you inherit the State Department sort of globally. And then what differs with presidents is what levels of power they choose to pull. And for this architecture to work, one or another of those levers have to be pulled. There's a famous saying amongst foreign service or diplomats that every American president has to have their war, right? Whether it's a proxy war, whether it's an active war, whether it's an invasion, the military complex has to be it has to continue. It has to continue. Yeah. So my question to you, Jidrof, and what we are trying to figure out here with kind of, and we're kind of, I feel like we are all feeling out in the dark, based on estimations on what he did in his first term. Is he going to continue with the same? Is he going to be more aggressive? Is he getting older, so he's not going to be as attentive? Is Vance going to kind of take the front and center in managing that that infrastructure? So, in your view, in contrast to what Biden has done, what is Trump going to do differently? And then the question we have also been trying to answer is, how is that going to have an impact in Africa and Kenya? Okay, and Jidrof, before you answer, we have a caller. We're going to pick you up, caller, but let's go to the answer first, and then we're going to come back to the caller. Jidrof.
Yeah, like you guys, I'm also grappling. We are not very sure. I'm going by what I've been observing from Trump and his statements. What I know for sure is that Trump has this very isolationist approach to American affairs. We have had this on and off. American and certain president comes into the office, he decides to pull America from the world, and somebody else comes in, like Biden, decides to go back to the world. And I'm thinking we are looking at a more isolationist approach to world affairs from Trump, the way I see it. Which, even NATO is worried, for example. NATO has already started, issuing statements to this effect. They are worried. I think it's just yesterday they were trying to reassure Ukraine that we're going to be, we're going to still go ahead with our support. Europe actually is now trying to come up with its own policy to help Ukraine in view of what has just happened in the U.S. And as far as Kenya is concerned, for me, I'm seeing a situation where Trump will move forward on the basis of profits. Right now we are talking about the Sahihi Expressway that is being funded. They're going to be funded by a U.S. finance organization. And I think going forward, this will be the template. I don't think... we basically, and I think you said it. I see Kenyans being disappointed. They are just celebrating. Some of them are celebrating Trump. Yes, people like Whitman, Meg Whitman, they should go home. That I agree with. we won't see so much of this LGBTQ agenda being promoted, or abortion, stuff like that in Nairobi. But besides that, I don't see any major changes between Biden and Trump going forward. Thank you.
All right. Oh, that's very profound. Very profound, Gidraff. Gidraff, tutakutana tena. We need to go back to the streets again. Wacha hii mambo.
Hiyo kwanza.
Yeah.
Kwanza hii mambo ya abduction hiyo lazima tuende.
And FYI, Gidraff, before you drop the line.
Ngoja Mika had something he was telling Gidraff.
No, this is just a short message.
Akikuja hizi size Gidraff, chinja tuwili hivi, kuja na tuwili tu 1 2 hivi, tumbuzi tuwili hivi jo. Huku nyama imepotea kabisa.
Nyama ni bei mbaya huku, my friend.
At economy. Alafu Gidraff,
yeah.
One of the things regarding the IMF protests, I met a whole bunch of activists, a range of activists from the LSK. They really deeply appreciated what we did, the solidarity here.
Okay.
They deeply appreciated it because it made the difference from them, and it felt like they're not alone. They're not alone. Their bigger brothers in the diaspora are watching out and trying to echo their messages. So Gidraff, I remember you're one of our very powerful voices. Thanks for your
and Gidraff, by the way, has been driving all the way from Pennsylvania, Reading, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Yeah. That's like how many hours is it to DC?
3-4 hours.
3 hours, I think.
Exactly 2.5 hours.
2.5 hours.
With bathroom breaks. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So and we coming, alikuwa anakuja na family, so we really appreciate that. I mean, kuna watu hapa karibu. Hatutawataja majina. Hapa karibu hatutawataja majina, walikuwa onekana.
Okay, wacha tukapokea simu hapa. But to be fair to Trump, marais karibu wote Marekani wana engage kwenye international policies kwenye second term. Na nafikiri that's why even Biden hakufanya trips nyingi za Africa. Ukiangalia hata Obama mara nyingi second term ndio inakuwa kwa ajili ya international
kutoka.
Yes. Twende tukaangalie 7736. Hello.
Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Welcome to the One Mic Show.
Hello, how are you?
Good.
Salama kabisa.
Haya, tuambie jina lako na kule unapiga.
Yeah, my name is Njiro Mwaura.
And where are you calling from?
Yeah, I'm calling right from Duluth, Minnesota.
Nice.
Wow.
Wow. Interesting.
Okay.
Talk to us.
Minnesota mlipatia Mkenya good stuff.
Nilikuwa tayari kusema Minnesota oye.
Yeah, thank you very much for your show, and actually I was alerted by somebody called the Syrian. She's also in your show there.
Okay.
I want to react briefly to the just completed U.S. election.
Yes.
First of all, whatever happened in the U.S. 2024 was a referendum on failed policies of the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
We have got to be clear about that. The Democratic Party had driven the U.S. country in the wrong trajectory. And that is why you can see we had so many detonation points, especially this war in Ukraine and in Israel. And also there was so much confusion when it came to culture issues. And inside America itself, there was a lot of discomfort because Americans themselves, they were feeling as if they had been abandoned. Away from that, I want to react that it is also a blessing for Africans because of what has happened. Why? Because number one, I have heard one of the person here saying that Trump is an isolationist. You see, Trump is about self-dependence, which is a good thing for everybody. You see, when you hear Trump saying that he wants America first, his explanation is he only wants to handle other people when his nation is good. He doesn't want to engage with Kenya while people in America are suffering. Of course, we know that there are those things which America has to do with everybody. But where I disagree a little bit with the previous person, he was saying that there is a lot of worry in the world. The truth of the matter is, the people who are worried are the ones who are not serious with life. But any person who wants a win-win situation is not worried of what Trump is coming to do in life. When you look at NATO, the reason why NATO is worried, it is because you know, many member states of NATO, they are no longer serious. You know that. That is why, because of the origination of, they concentrated too much on things which do not make sense, to the extent that even there was that war which happened in Ukraine. So, as long as everybody is willing to participate in NATO, NATO will proceed. But I don't think NATO will continue with that parasitic relationship. You know, they are that parasitic relationship. If you're in a relationship, let's say that you are NATO, every member state has to participate in everything. But it can't be, which is common sense, by the way, it can't be America is doing more than others. So it must be, you have also to understand, in NATO, Europeans are also superior countries. They are not lesser countries. They have stamped the authority in other territories. So they cannot take themselves as babies that America has to be carrying their problems just like that. So there must be multinational arrangements whereby it must be a win-win situation, and also respecting agreements. You are aware the reason why, like this Ukraine war came, it was because of Munich agreement, which NATO refused to agree. There was an arrangement that there should not be more expansion. So it is just like the same case you saw like in America when there was the Cuban Missile Crisis. These things always happen. When there is a lot of expansion on a powerful nation, they always feel threatened. So what is going to happen here? There must be a direct negotiation between the U.S. and Russia, and they will have to agree. You see, like how the Cuban missile was averted, was that Russia decided to abandon delivery of missiles in Cuba, and that's how the 1963 missile crisis was abandoned. So the same case also, U.S. needed a leader who will a little bit for some time abandon oversupply of weapons and oversupply of resources to Ukraine. So that now there can be that parallel, because remember, Ukraine cannot be able to negotiate with Russia. They are not in equal strength in power. The only person or the only people who will be able to negotiate with Russia is the U.S. And remember, Joe Biden was not willing, or I don't know what happened, or maybe they wanted it that way. They took too long to negotiate with Russia. They were verifying Putin instead of looking for a way, because remember, Putin is not going anywhere. That is the truth of the matter. In Russia, they have shaped their politics on Putin direction, so you cannot avoid Putin. It is just like the way in North Korea, you cannot avoid Kim Jong-un, because they have shaped their politics in Kim Jong-un. But the problem which we have is that the left-wing media brings scaremongering, and telling people that you are not supposed to talk with these people. Now let's ask our question. If we don't talk with Putin, and Russians have shaped their politics with Putin, and Putin could be there for another 20 years, are we going to say that we are going to have a crisis for another 20 years because we cannot talk with Putin, because Putin is a murderer, as the media says, Putin is a murderer, is this, is this, is this? At the end of the day, you need to save life. And how do you save life? You will have to look for ways to still talk with this criminal, even as you call him criminal. You will have to speak with him. When it comes to Kenya, number one, remember that the issues of ambassador, whether you need to know that there will be realignment of all ambassadors in the world. Trump will come with new people. So it is common sense that Meg Whitman has to go, because Trump has to bring his own people everywhere, because he has to bring people who understand his policies and his direction of influence. So even without talking much, Meg Whitman will have to go, because you also need to remember that Kenya is one of the pivotal nations in Africa, and that's why they always want to bring powerful people there. So you need to know that Trump will also bring a powerful person there. But also remember, Mr. Donald Trump, most of the treaties which he will have to agree with Kenya, they are mostly on security issues. But the issues of culture, the issues of LGBT, those ones will be put aside. So, and the issues of a bit of manipulation, those ones will be a little bit put aside. So now Kenya has also to become creative. We have now to start looking at how we are going to negotiate with America in terms of real business. This idea whereby sometimes Kenya, us as Kenya, when we want to negotiate with America, we want to negotiate on social issues. We also want to say that we are also for some of the agendas which the left wing was bringing, there will be a problem. Now, moving forward, if we have to talk with Donald Trump, we have to talk of infrastructure, we have to talk of business, we have to talk of real issues. So whoever wants to negotiate with America, it must be something now which is well understood, because now Mr. Donald Trump, he is not coming with all these shenanigans in which you have been seeing in the world. So maybe that's what I can say for now.
Okay.
What I really like about what you've said is the fact that Trump, unlike the other presidents, he breaks away from traditional U.S. policy, and he's done unconventional things like say, you know what, we are going to have that conversation with Russia. Obama did the same thing. Like he broke a 70-year-old blockade and fraught relationship with Cuba and said, you know, we're just going to normalize the relationships with them. So really successful presidents are ones who are decisive like that, right?
Okay, all right. Sasa,
so I appreciate your comments.
Okay, thank you so much, Njiru, for calling. Sanjiru, maybe, I don't want to assume, but who did you vote for when you voted on Tuesday? Ama kura yako siri yako?
It is. Of course, from that that talk, you know what it means. Personally, I'm heavily right wing.
You're heavily MAGA or heavily right wing.
He even had a sign. He had a sign by his John Deere tractor in front of his house.
Okay, you know, I am very glad, Njiru, asante sana. Now I don't know whether you're in the same district where that Kenyan lady was running, Hulda. Have you heard about her in Minnesota, the Kenyan lady who won?
No, yeah, I've heard about her, but I was not following her very much. But this is the time when I will now take interest to know where she is.
Okay.
You know, I had disregarded that girl. How old is she? She's about.
She's in her either late 30s.
Just young enough.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So what I was thinking is, this was Barack Obama when he started.
Yes.
Yeah, he started
as
he had a meteoric rise, but he started as a state senator. He became a senator. He tried to run for Congress.
No, he tried to run for Congress and he lost to Bobby Rush.
Bobby Rush,
yeah.
Became a senator. Shortly after that, became
a president.
So,
yeah.
You know,
so
watch
so
this
don't.
space,
Yeah. So that's a space to be on. So Njiru asante sana, and I'm really glad that watu wengine wa MAGA, tag those MAGA people. Tunataka wakuje. Unajua watu wanasikia hapa kwa show tunaongea, and you can see this is the people's kamkunji. We want all different opinions, and even when Trump fails, we want you guys to come back here to say, oh, we are sorry. 2 years ago we said this, but he has failed us. So musiogope pia. You know,
Ati, and this session is brought to you by who?
No, we cannot fear. 1 minute, 1 minute maybe to make a conclusion.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, anyway, thank you for this opportunity. You know, some of us, we always stand with what happens on our side. I know it's not everything which will work into our favor, but I can tell you that the truth of the matter is that I'm very positive on the presidency of that guy, because he means business. There is so much rot in the society. If you look like the way things have been happening in the world, like if you look like China-Taiwan issue there, if you look like even in Africa, things are not so good. We have like so many things which are not working well. If you look in Europe, there things are not very well. America, they have their own internal wars together, like immigration, so many things. That's why at this time, we needed a stronger person, somebody who is bold enough to make an unconventional decision, so that we could move into the right direction. Moving forward, in the next 4 or 5 years, maybe after we solve some of these majority issues, we could now start thinking of other issues. But all what we are calling for is that the left wing people, I think they have been changing this world in the wrong direction, and I think now we need to start asking ourselves, even if the left wing they have to bring some of the issues which they have been bringing, are they the real agendas which they want to be driving the world? Because surely we cannot be bringing anti-life and anti-people agenda, and we want them to become the way of life. So I think it should be a lesson to everybody, especially when we want to push some of the ideologies which actually do not support life, or they do not support the human way of existence. So those are issues now which we have not started. Besides conducting politics, are we agreeing on issues which are or we are just siding with issues simply because people have come and told us that we need to be in those issues. We have now to reach a level whereby we can independently use our mind and we make a decision that I need to support this agenda because it is helping me, other than supporting agenda because a million group of people have put a coalition here, or they have put an association here, and we have now to side with them. We have to bring politics into individuality. Is it helping me as an individual? And that is how MAGA won. MAGA won.
I want us to take a vote. Should we get this guy on the show next time?
This guy, yeah. This guy can come and touch us here, but I think we need him.
Njero, please inbox us on the One Mic Show, either on the Facebook page or on our YouTube page, and we'll get connected. I'm a resilient, contact us. Yeah, you seem to have. I don't agree with everything that you say. But you have a very convincing way in the way you bring them across.
I have one last question. Njiro, how would you describe Trump in one word?
Wow.
Trump in one word is dependable.
Hey. Thank you, sir.
These are true, man. Thank you. That's a true MAGA supporter.
Unakuwa Evans sasa. Evans anasema watu wa baba na Azimio wengi wanasali na Trump.
I used to be, but I abandoned him. I abandoned him when he abandoned me.
That's a topic for another day.
But to his point, by the way, Azimio, not Baba, not ODM, but Azimio, a lot of the principles have come out in support of Trump, mostly because of opposition to Ruto.
Opposition to Ruto. Okay, so
Steve anafurahia you're dependable. Steve anacheka Steve JJ.
Sawa, Njiro asante sana. But one thing I wish to remember, one thing I wish to remember the people on the right as they gloat in their victory right now is that whenever you go to any extreme, people will always return you back, because there's also issues. I know people like talking about left, but there's also very serious flaws that the extreme right has. And if they start going back to that direction, guess what? It's gonna be very fast before they are restored back to factory settings, because both sides, both extremes are not good. Both extremes on the left and the extreme on the right, there's very flawed things that they're doing, especially like when it comes to the appeal of people who have racist and white supremacist ideologies. That's something. That is something that the right wing has won, sometimes won some elections on. So that's something that if they also keep the what's her name, that one from Georgia, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Yeah, so if they keep taking things in that direction,
did she win?
Things will be restored back to factory settings. Yeah, Alishinda. Yeah, Alishinda. Yeah, so let me also go through some comments here, and I want to remind the listeners that you're tuned into the One Mic Show. The number to call is 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. Time Doyo and Akwisha. I also want to remind you that the show is brought to you by money transfer app Lemfi. Yeah, so please download this app. Kuna watu wengi, watu wa MAGA. Kwani watu wa MAGA hamtumi pesa nyumbani?
Tumagi.
I haven't seen any of
the
your names.
The money stays where the John has a deer.
Click that link on YouTube. You see that link that's pinned on YouTube and the link that's pinned on the Facebook page. Please click on that. All you have to do is download Angalia rates.
And set it up. Yeah, actually they have the best rates.
They have very good rates.
Yeah, they have the best rates for sending money.
Make comparisons and you will save some money, and then we'll give you $30 on top of that. The first $100 you send will give you $30. And the code is One Mic. But if you click the link, it will take you direct there. So watu wa MAGA, make us proud. Mudownload the kitu. Let's know that you guys mnasema nyinyi watu wa action. Please mudownload the link, and I'm going to be
dependent
looking.
As you click on the link.
Yes, be dependable. Na hapa watu wa MAGA wamekutana hapa kwa hii YouTube page yetu. Resilient.
Wako hapa.
Trump MAGA, Njiru, kuna
Joyo Besa,
wengi.
Charles Ndolo. I don't know if KD Lethal uko wapi ama wewe bado unacheka.
It's like this is a coming out party. party.
Njiru Mwaura yuko up. Oh,
Yes.
so Njiru is Njiru. Okay. So yes.
This is a coming out party.
Karibuni. Welcome to the show.
Sio mimi peke yangu nimemtambua. Unaona Njiru for president.
Yes, okay, sawa. So Resilient anasema Njiru for president.
So you are actually going to make him president of Minnesota.
Okay. And then
he's a very articulate guy. I found him very articulate.
Yes. No, he knew how to lay out his points so that the points are not beating you up as you are being stepped on and you're dying.
Yeah, and one issue, because watu wa MAGA sometimes, and they might come for me leo weko wengi, watu wa MAGA sometimes, one of the issues they have is that, because you've known me, I'm one of those people, I like listening to people, whether we disagree, I like listening to know their strength of reasoning and where they're coming from. So there's a couple of MAGA people who are, I think they're so used to being beat down by people on the left. So when someone comes, and me personally, I don't necessarily identify as left. I mean, I'm a Democrat. Like I've always been a Democrat. I'm still a Democrat. But there's certain things that I certainly.
But Ali, you are going to sit out the election. So are you still?
No, actually, I wasn't going to sit out. I was not going to vote for Biden.
Meaning you're not going to vote for president?
I was not going to vote for Biden. Biden was not the only person running for president.
Oh, so you are going to write in Jill Stein, which apparently in some places
I was not going to, when Biden was, and that's where like a lot of the MAGA people, like who liked coming, when I was telling them I'm not voting for Biden, they were like, Allah, like, what do you mean you're not voting for Biden? Because I think what used to happen is that because of these wars that people have been having, so people on the MAGA side are so used to being beat down by people on the other side. So a lot of times when you approach people and you approach them with kindness, they wanashtuka, Allah. Because I'm like, I'm just here to listen to you. Yes, I'm not going to vote for Trump. I don't agree with him, but I'm here to listen to you. So it's great to have people like Njiru. I mean, there's Resilient who's been listening to us. I can see also Trump MAGA called in earlier today. Yes, and so many other people, and this is what we want. Like when Trump was voted in the first time in 2016, there wasn't too many Kenyans who were supporting him. So in my mind, I was like, I'm probably never going to have to interact with a Trump supporter. But where it became a concern, where we even started talking about it, is when I noticed there was quite a number of people in the Kenyan community who are supporting Donald Trump. So we wanted to know and we wanted to hear why they're doing it.
Especially this time around, and they had no qualms in coming out.
Yes, I mean they're still in a minority.
Yeah, but
a few came out.
Yeah, but
now with the
hear
win,
that much of them.
Yes.
Maybe
wamekuja wengi.
And I think it's one of those things where people have been observing, or they felt comfortable. Let's say comfortable, justified to come out because they realized, wait, he won the popular vote, so it means a large diversity of people voted for him. And it's okay for us to come out and say, hey, I was one of those people, as opposed to previously where it was more his base that was voting. It also feels like although I didn't follow the election, I didn't really follow the campaign trail, but it also feels like he has tempered himself a bit more this time around compared to previous.
He's older.
He's older.
I don't know if he has tempered. I don't know if he has tempered himself.
He has more experience.
And then people are a little bit more used to his antics.
I just think he's just basically like, I'm who I am. I don't have to prove to you. And after all,
and then
go ahead.
And then I think the other thing that happened was when they took that shot against him, when they shot
they tried to assassinate him.
All of a sudden people sort of I think hearts were touched. They're like, this guy is a human being, and he's putting himself out there in places many of us would be scared. And after that he came out again and he was right there on the campaign trail. So I think from that perspective, like, and I'm gonna repeat, like, I'm one of the most loyal Democrats you'll find out there. It's just I think we have a license to kind of recognize what is really going on.
No, I know that. I'm not.
Yeah, so he got the sympathy vote because of the shooting. I mean, he got the sympathy vote. So,
all right.
Yeah.
Okay. So now before we go, Yeah, before we go, a number of comments here, like we're coming also on Facebook. Junoburu is still mourning. Yeah, many of us are. You're not by yourself,
Yeah,
Junoburu.
June.
Many of us are.
In fact, it's. I would say there's a lot of psychological warfare.
Yes.
And just dealing with it, and especially for people like June who are in the South. That's. It's even. I think you feel it worse.
You feel it worse because it's right there. It's right there with you. Like you're with your neighbors and everything. It's right there in your face. And then and interestingly enough, the District 6 in Maryland, where I live, the part of Montgomery County where I live, the Democrats have also done some very interesting gerrymandering, because the reason that made me go look at the map is because the district I've lived in has always been I don't even bother to check. I know whoever is a Democrat, they're going to win. But this time it was one of those races that was too close to call. April McLean Delaney was running against Neil Parrott. And this Neil Parrott guy has been running for a very long time. Yani ni ule mtu amejulikana a perennial loser. But this thing at 95%, it was almost.
I think it was what? It was less than 100 votes.
It was less than 100 votes.
It was less than 100 votes.
But then the remaining parts were, of course, in the part of Montgomery County, which I know is heavily Democrat. So I knew April was going to win, but I was like, whoa, because the gerrymandering. For those who are familiar with the Maryland map, Montgomery County is attached to it borders another county called Frederick County. Frederick borders another county called Washington County, where there's Hagertown, and then there's Allegheny and Garrett County. Now, these counties border the most MAGA parts of West Virginia, Virginia, and Pennsylvania. So those counties are MAGA all the way. So this gerrymander was done in an interesting way that however MAGA those guys are, like this will always go Democrat. But this time, there was a fear that it might flip back, because Maryland, out of the 8 congressional seats we have, there's only one, the one in Ocean City. The one on that side on the eastern shore that is always Republican. The other 7 are Democrat.
Salisbury, equal. Yes.
Yeah, the other 7 are Democrat. So that was a very interesting dynamic that I saw. So let me just read a few comments here before we go. Washeke says men generally address accomplished women as girls when they are trying to diminish their achievements. And then Mutslis Ndungs says, are they better than Sendwave? Yes, they are. I will authoritatively say that.
Yes, they are.
Just click on that link.
Click on the link and just download.
And you'll get 30 bob. Do you know what $30 can do?
Especially when you're sending money.
When you're sending money, what can $30 do? You remember
you can get mtungi ya gas.
Mtungi ya gas.
Yes.
Unaweza
lipa steamer for the month.
Okay.
It's up.
It seems like you have experience paying for someone.
Na chicken nuggets pia.
Kuna kwanza kama wewe ni mtu wa pizza, buy one get one free on Thursdays. You can get I think that would be at least 2 Thursdays and a half in a row.
Yeah.
No. It's good money.
It's good money. So please, so
almost at 4,000 shillings. Yeah, it's good money.
Click on the link and try it out.
Kwa mtungi ya gas, you still have some more money left.
All right. Mary nakaribia kutia nanga.
Before Mary tia nanga, Evans Marube anasema Njiru is good. He was an Azimio diehard mpaka baba akatuacha kwa mataa. And then Luis Buya anasema currently, yes, I used it 4 days ago and it was 128 shillings versus 126 from Sendwave. So ndo hiyo hapo, plus you get an extra $30 when you use the code 1mic, and when you click on the link the code is automatically populated. Steven JJ anasema you also get reward points, and then Nambua, please read this. So anasema Washeke was saying, Dr. Nathan, you might not have meant to offend, but addressing Hulda as a girl is inappropriate.
Okay. No, sorry. It's because I didn't actually know. I just saw pictures, so I didn't know whether she was a younger woman or a lady, or so. I apologize for that mishap.
All right.
It's also 11 p.m. So.
Apology accepted. Yeah, na time doing.
I think he still has jet lag. He's in Kenya. He's asleep.
Now, before we go. Real quick, something I wanted to say about what's been happening on our side of the community. Sasa sisi Waislamu, because there was a lot of conflict on the Gaza issue. It's just a quick update.
Yes.
Now after the elections, the morning after, we were being pushed to vote for Jill Stein. A lot of these people who are pushing us to vote for Jill Stein, I mean, of course, we don't know how people voted, but when you look at those heavily Arab-populated areas, there was a lot of votes that went to Trump, because the consensus amongst the Muslim communities that no party, the Democrats and the Republicans, they're equally bad to us.
You need to send a message to them both.
They're equally bad to us. So there was like, because Democrats are in power, let's go vote Jill Stein to punish the Democrats. However, there are these guys who went and voted Donald Trump. So there's a lot of bitterness by the people who were like, okay, we've been Democrats, we've been lifetime Democrats, but we're going to abandon and we're going to vote Jill Stein. So now, we're waiting to see what's going to happen. Now, the first thing that happened when it was apparent that Donald Trump was going to win is that Netanyahu's general, the one who was pushing for a ceasefire, the one who Biden had forced Netanyahu to keep him because Netanyahu wanted to fire him. So as soon as it was apparent that Biden, or rather Trump had won, Netanyahu fired him. Netanyahu fired him. What does that mean? I don't know that he's already appointed someone else, but he's going to appoint someone who is full Operation Fagia. Let us finish Gaza. Let us remember that Jared Kushner, Trump's son-in-law, had expressed interest in Gaza, has interest in the settlements, and they had also expressed interest in wanting to create beachfront properties in Gaza. So this is now my message to the people who are pushing us to abandon Democrats. And I'm saying this very authoritatively.
Look at them.
Yes, I'm saying this very authoritatively. Trump is going to be worse for Gaza. I hope I'm wrong when I say this, but please come back. The same energy that you had when you were telling us to abandon Kamala, to abandon the Democrats, I would want to see the same energy. Because there is clearly, even before Gaza happened, Trump moved the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Everybody knows, for those who know history, Jerusalem is an illegally occupied area. It was supposed to be a neutral zone. Even the United Nations does not recognize that as Israel, and there's all these illegal settlements. So this is me. I hope I'm wrong. We are praying for our brothers in Gaza. But then another tactical mistake that I think American Muslims made was not necessarily working with Black Americans. I think because Black Americans, American Muslims have been an oppressed minority, especially after 9/11. To me, Black Americans are the people who have the most experience in fighting oppression in this country. So I think right now, all Muslim communities, they need to rethink, because out of every 3 or 4 Muslims in America, 1 is Black.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's just food for thought. If any of them is listening to me, that's a strategy they need to think about.
All right. Kama anavyosema uno, wanasema
Nelly metia nanga.
All right, Mika. Yeah, kila chenye mwanzo akikosi kuwa na mwisho, na yeye hana mwanzo leo wala mwisho, yuko missing in action.
And let's wrap this puppy up.
All right, Mika, twende kazi.
Man.
Energy, boss, energy.
It's been a long week.
Yes,
it's been a long week. I hope I'll tell people this. If you need some time to cool off, relax, take some time off. It's a long weekend. Shut down. It's allowed. Pumzika. Reset, then come back. Hakuna kitu kinaweza kufanya. Wale walikuwa na support Trump na wamemfurahia, good things to you. Hopefully for me, it's just that I hope when walimpigia kura akijua atafanya vitu, afanye vitu, because if he does what Project 25 says he's going to do, maneno ya kututouniazi wote. I hope he believes that he's a better president and he's going to work for everybody. Does come true at this point.
All right.
What? These comments of ours. Okay. Yes. Thank you to our listeners, to our new listeners. Karibuni.
Sana.
Daktari, as usual, we always welcome you. You know, we open the studio and our arms to you to come in and school our peoples. It's always good to get another train of thought in all of this. It's been a long, arduous week, psychologically. I think sijui mentally, because they're not necessarily the same, but they could be in the same WhatsApp group. There are some who are even healthier hata wanaona ikienda south by southwest. So just like Mika was saying, you may need to take some time to unplug. For some people, it is a long weekend. So, you know, utilize the 3 days. Kuna Veterans Day ndio hiyo na kama Monday. Sure. I for some, again, that's why I said for some. Yeah. Of course, there are those of you who will pay for it and get their, what is it called, the day after Thanksgiving. But anyway, neither here or there. And it's okay sometimes to just, you know, turn everything off, turn your phone off. I think we've had people on the show before tell us that on Sundays they just turn everything off so that at least they can rest. You know, they don't look at social media and nothing until maybe 6, 7 o'clock, then is when they turn it on. So maybe that might be a strategy to use just to kind of try to reset your clock and gain some sanity. It's been a lot to take in. And we have a lot more pressure being here in the diaspora, dealing with now this election, which is a very heavy one, by the way. And we're still dealing with our things that we deal with at home with the people who we support. Whether we want to support them or not, we are supporting them. You know, they always say to whom much is given, much is expected. So we try in a small little way as much as we can. And that's where Lemfi comes in. So, bonyeza kidude, link iko hapo, ukule kaudhate, ukituma 100, na pia mimi nitaendelea kupata ka kitu kidogo kutoka bonyeza ring Lemfi. So have a good week. We'll talk next week, and don't forget to enjoy and hug your loved ones. And we have, I don't know if this a heat wave. I don't even know what to call this, because I don't know if I should be in shorts, t-shirt, or whatever. But enjoy the weather while we have it. It's November.
Have short on top of t-shirt.
Doctor.
Yeah, so on my part, I think with respect to this topic of the consequences of a Trump presidency in Kenya, I always go back to trying to figure out what leverage points we as a diaspora community have, and just as Kenyans in general. One of the glaring leverage points that we have is that we're very active in social media, but specifically in X, where a lot of the Trump surrogates and Trump himself are active. So it gives us a really unique opportunity for us to actually influence Trump's not just Africa but Kenyan policy, and specifically the things that we don't like. The obvious ones are what has happened in the last 1 year, which is the Haiti occupation, this individual called Meg Whitman, and our economic policies, which are just crushing Kenyans, and also this cozy relationship with the regime. So those are 4 things that we can actually train our eyes at and train our collective efforts to. The other sort of larger global issues, those things it's good to have an opinion. One of the things I always emphasize is, you know, be pragmatic, and that's how you win. Because, you know, this president, like it or not, we're gonna have to tolerate him and his kind for definitely another 4 years and maybe even longer. So we have to figure out how we engage productively. You know, ignore the things that are offensive and focus on the things that we actually can do that have an impact in the homeland. Thanks all for coming on the show. To the viewers, you're very engaged. I really loved today's show. This was a really good show.
Okay.
And yeah, make sure that you keep tuned, keep engaged, and have an amazing weekend.
All right, Dr. Wangusi, asante sana for coming through. You know, like the reason why I wanted you here is because, you know, like last week there was someone who came on the comments after the show and said, Kwani, this is MSNBC. You guys are so you guys are so left wing. And one thing that we tell people is that we never shy away from opinions here. And even as a group here on the show, we never go and sit in a meeting and say these are the opinions that we are gonna push. You know, like everyone has their own positions. Sometimes we have similar positions. Sometimes we have differing positions. Like remember when Biden was still running, you know, like I was an outlier. I was one of those people because of Gaza. I said I wasn't going to vote for Biden. And it came as a shock to many people who tried to put you in a box that this is where you belong. And regardless of what's going to happen, this is what happened. So to me, when Kamala became candidate, it became an opening. And I ended up voting for Kamala. But it's great that we've had this variation of people. So please, watu wa MAGA, tell the other MAGA people that this is a people's kamkunji. There's no one who has a monopoly on this space of opinions of participation. You know, like the highest form of participation that we always appreciate is giving us a phone call. We thank there was Njiru who called. Who else called today? There was I
Kamau,
think 2-3
Peterson
callers.
Kamau.
There was Kamau, and then was there a third person?
Jidraf.
And Jidraf, yes, and of course Jidraf. Yeah, there were 3 people, you know, like different opinions. They called in, we appreciate. Kwa wale wataki kupiga simu, wanaweza tu kuingia hapo on YouTube ama on the Facebook side. Drop your comments hapa na pale. Well and good. We appreciate that. I was seeing also on the Facebook side, Ndunge was saying that she needs more than $30. We kula your $30 kwanza. You know, like, did you hear what $30 can do? Unaweza kununua mtungi ya gas. Unaweza, in some parts of Nairobi, you could actually pay rent. Don't ask me how I know. But in some parts of Nairobi, you know, like you can pay rent. And
pay
then
extra for toilet?
Sasa rent, rent ni mali pa kulala.
Okay.
Yeah, ni mali pa kulala. Yeah, toilet hiyo hapo. Sasa hiyo hapo ni ina rent yake kando. Yeah, pay per use. Ni pay per view. Pay-per-view. Ni pay-per-view. Is it paper? Pay-per-view would not be. It's pay-per-view. Pay-per-view would not sound correct with toilets. Yeah. It's pay-per-use. And then hapa Evans Marube anasema Trump ran a campaign as a personality, family affairs away from conventions. Michelle is a strong personality. Maybe she would have done better. Kamala was likable but didn't defend or offer clear policies. The defects of incumbent. And then hapa Luis Muya anasema Njeri, uncle loves you. Nimo, uncle loves you. I think hapa replace Uno Mike. Yeah. And then there was also another comment here that I saw before we go. Leo watu wa MAGA wamekataa kwenda kumekujwa. Na by the way, watu wako YouTube, the music that will come after the show watu naikata. So if you want to listen to the music, you have to come back to Facebook.
The reason being?
YouTube does not like music. We're going to be struck down. This whole stream will be taken away. And we want you to share this stream so that other people can see it. Apa Resilient Anauliza, are you live every evening? I'm trying to encourage other MAGA supporters to join the show. I wish we had the capacity to be live every evening, but mukianza kudownload iyo link ya Lemfi, mukiclick mudownload, then maybe Lemfi might give us more money and allow us to be here. We're here every Fridays like the sun from 8 p.m. We never miss out, so make sure you're here next Friday with us. We always post shorter videos during the week, but the live show happens only once a week. So thank you so much. And then another thing, Resilient, you're asking is how is he going to be bad when he worked on the Abraham Accords alongside his son-in-law? Now, Resilient, what you need to understand, very few people in the Arab world love the Abraham Accords. Why do you think MBS in Saudi Arabia has slowed down on it? Very few people. The Abraham Accords are loved by Americans. The Sudanese people were bribed into getting into it to get off the list of state sponsors of terrors. So it was a cash deal. It was a cash deal. There was some money of theirs that was that had been blocked, and that's why they got it. And the proxy war going on in Sudan right now has a genesis from the Abraham Accords. All the people who are being killed has a genesis of the Abraham. The proxy war that's there, Wagner Group is there. They are proxies of America. The UAE and Saudi Arabia are there supporting them, and these are proxies. So now America is using proxies of proxies, and unfortunately, a lot of our brothers are being killed in Sudan. This is something that we are forwarding in mosques. We are saying the same energy that we've seen Arabs supporting Gaza and asking other people to support Gaza, we want them to show support to Sudan. Because in Sudan, there's more people who've died than people who've died in Gaza. So yeah, so the Abraham Accords, no good. Good maybe for people who are in America, but no good for the people who are in the Middle East. Na kwa hayo machache, yeyote ambaye anataka kunipigia simu, nambari yangu bado ni ile ile, 1-800 mteule. Na operator akishika simu, mwambie unataka kusema na mjukuu. Na akikuuliza ni mjukuu yupi, unamkumbusha ni mjukuu yule yule wa Masai. Because I'm Kenyan by blood, American by design, Masai by choice. Sichagui, sikagui, na sibagui. Kwaherini.
Alright, kwa wale wasikilizaji wote ambao wamejiunga nasi kwa mara ya kwanza, shukrani sana. Waliopiga simu, Petson Kamau, Njiru Mwaura na Good Raf. Shukrani sana. Ngoja kwanza. Njiru amesema ametoa hapo nani. Sasa hapa na subscribe live on air. Kwa hiyo top hiyo subscription iliyoingia ni ya kwangu. Yes. Kwa hiyo tutaanza kufuatilia sasa kuweza kujua every Friday kama ambavyo amesema. And yes, karibu sana, tutaweza kuzungumzia kuhusiana na hili. Kama alivyosema Ali, basi mlete pia na talking points. Mlete na topic nyingine. Sio kila siku tutazungumzia election, lakini kuna mambo mengi ya kuzungumza
kabisa.
Inaonekana kuna vitu vingi ambavyo tunaweza tukashirikiana hapa. Na wewe pia uje utupe unakuwa lini live au tutakuwa tunapata hivi vitu mara kwa mara. Uno, shukrani sana kwa heshima kukaa hapa. Kwa wale wote ambao mmesikiliza Facebook, asante. Hata sijapitia maoni huko, lakini yes, mimi ni Mubelo wa Twin kama Simon na kulinda Peter Bendio. Mwana wa Paulina, baba Paulina. Kwenye raga wananiita Ras Twin. Ras ya Marasa ni real African soldier, na Twin si ya mapacha, hata kama wanaonifuata ni mapacha. Unakumbuka tunakujia kwa udhamini mkubwa kabisa wa Lemfi, na kwa wale mlioko YouTube tunakatika, na kwa wewe ambaye uko nasi kwenye Facebook, basi endelea kula muziki. Bye bye.
Extra pressure, baby, when you whine.